Welcome to our game show fever chat. What's My Line TV Moms Marathon? We're doing two shows with TV with moms honoring. And today it's our What's My Line TV Moms Marathon. Oh yes, get ready for that. Get ready for What's My Line coming up next on both of my YouTube channels. Don't you dare go away. In less than 3 weeks from now, the Summer of Games. 3 to 4 weeks from now. Before we begin today's game show fever check, this summer on 11 Alive. Tracy Lockwood was all American. Andrew DeVecchio was a nobody. This summer on 11 Alive.
Thank you very much. For the sake of our newcomers, let me reiterate that my name is Ed Sachs. I mention this only because I have been told that a few misguided upperclassmen have, on occasion, mistakenly referred to me as X-Class. Okay. It is excellence. Excellence in the classroom, excellence on the playing field, and excellence in the community that distinguishes Santa Mira from its rivals. So, today, the first day of the rest of your lives, I issue this challenge to each and every one of you. I challenge you to be the best. The best son or daughter, the best student, the best athlete, the best individual that it is in you to be. We live in a competitive world. A world in which second best is simply not good enough. And so I ask you, what is your goal this year at Santa Mira High? Again? One more time?
What?
Oh yes.
The best.
Coming soon to
You're
11
brave.
Alive on both of my YouTube channels. Death of the Cheerleader 94.
Come on, Angela.
Coming
You're the best
soon
writer in school, but yearbook
on
editors
Channel
have such
11.
popularity.
Time now for everybody's favorite guessing game. What's My Line? Remington Rand, makers of the Remington. the world's #1 electric shaver, presents What's My Line? Now, let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in the New York Journal-American and papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
On my left, the charming young humorist who stars in his own television show 5 nights a week on another network, Mr. Steve Allen.
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you. And on my left, one of the lovely ladies of radio and television who has her own show, Talent Patrol, on another network every... What night is it now?
Now that you ask me, it's Thursday.
Thursday night. They switched it on me. Here is Arlene Francis.
Thank you, Steve. And on my left, substituting for Bennett Cerf, and quite a substitute, Bennett, I must say, is a young lady who has been mentioned for the Academy Award for her performance in From Here to Eternity, who is enchanting New York audiences by her lovely performance in Tea and Sympathy, Miss Deborah Carr.
Arlene, thank you. I'm going to hire you. And on my left, I think this is where I say this, the one, the only, Mr. John Daly.
Thank you, Miss Deborah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. We got a letter here from Bennett Cerf. He's out in La Quinta in California, and it says the show followed him. He got a letter from some young ladies who said we made a mistake, that there aren't male and female worms. We'll look into that later on. But once again tonight, we're going to put our cameras close up on some nice people who've come with some nice occupations. We think a nice occupation is an occupation that gives the panel a lot of trouble. We anticipate they'll have some trouble tonight. We'll also have a famous guest challenger before the panel a bit later on. But let's get things underway. It's time for the experts to meet our first challenger whose job they have to spot. So would you sign in, please, ma'am? Francis Borgen. Is it Miss or Mrs.?
Mrs.
Mrs. Vaughn, and where are you from, Mrs. Vaughn?
Bonner Springs, Kansas.
Bonner Springs, Kansas. Well, it's real nice to have somebody from Kansas with us.
Thank you.
Usually we have people from the eastern seaboard and the western seaboard, and we like the panel to know all kinds of nice folks from the Midwest. So suppose you go over and meet them, will you?
How do you do?
All right, now, Mrs. Vaughn, if you'll come over here and sit down next to me, I think perhaps you know that the panel gets one free guess as to what your line may be, and we always begin our free guesses with Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
I think she's a police matron.
A police matron, Mr. Allen.
I think she does the hiring of the soft drink plant. I think she hires root beer.
Oh, brother. Miss Francis.
I think Mrs. Vaughn runs a general store in Kansas.
Miss Carr.
I think Mrs. Vaughn is a milliner here to see the spring styles and hats.
No, I'm afraid not. We'll let our viewers have a further look at Mrs. Frances Vaughn of Bonner Springs, Kansas, and at the same time, we'll tell them what her line is. But Mrs. Vaughn, the panel has got to work, and I trust that you're going to make them work very hard. However, every time you can give them a no answer, we'll flip a card, and 10 no's, 10 flips, and you've won the game. Are you all ready to go?
Already.
All right, Mrs. Vaughn is salaried. With that, let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Do you work for a profit-making organization, Mrs. Vaughn?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go. All right, Miss Carr.
Well, is there a product concerned involved in what you
No.
do?
Not in our terms of reference. The product is not considered to be vital here. This is 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you deal with both men and women?
Yes.
I presume that you deal in services.
Yes.
Do they come to you?
I would say to the degree that Mrs. Vaughn performs a service that the necessary ingredients for the performance of the service are brought to her, yes.
Do you work for any branch of any government?
Yes.
Is it a local government in Kansas?
By what do you mean local?
Well, state or city rather than federal.
Yes.
Is it state?
Yes.
Do you work at all outdoors?
No.
Three down and 7 to go, Mr. Allen.
Could an adverse decision of any sort by you in your professional capacity make anyone unhappy?
Yes.
Do you run something or govern something, or are you in some position of authority?
That's a very good question. Yes.
3 very good questions.
Yes to that one, yes.
Do you have anything possibly to do with the law?
With the law?
Yes.
In a way, yes. The implementation thereof in some degree or another.
Well, I didn't expect this at all.
Do you have anything, could you have anything to do with prisoners or people under arrest or...
No.
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you have anything whatsoever to do with discipline?
No.
Just a moment, we'll have a small conference.
I wonder if she's here on business or pleasure.
It's pleasure when you're sitting with John, you know.
Mrs. Vaughn is of very tender sensibilities and would not care to mislead you. The question as to discipline was asked in such general terms that we hesitate to give you a no, so we will give you a qualified yes.
Swell. I'll give you a qualified thank you. Do you have anything at all to do with children, Mrs. Vaughn?
No.
I don't think so,
No.
not in any specific degree. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Carr.
Oh, that's got me. I was going to ask you, do you teach anything?
No.
6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you have anything to do with carrying out a law or rule or regulation?
Yes.
Does this ever involve anything other than human beings?
Yes.
Yes.
It could. Would it ever have anything to do with animals?
With animals? Well,
No.
I would say that indirectly we could come into contact with some animals in this operation, couldn't we? Possibly, yeah.
Well, does Mrs. Vaughan have anything to do with licensing?
That's a very good question. We'll have a conference. Mrs. Vaughan is very tender in her sensibilities. Hesitates to give a no answer, but we'll give you one anyway, okay? 7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Allen. I'm going to give you 1 more minute to get this.
It'll do you no good. Neither humans nor animals. Does she have anything to do with farms or plants or growing anything of that sort?
No. 8 down and 2 to go, Miss
Does
Francis.
she have anything to do with vehicular traffic of any
Vehicular
kind?
transportation, moving from one place to another, you mean?
Well, all right, give me the no and don't build it up that way.
9 down and 1 to go, Miss Carr.
May I have a conference, please?
Wonderful.
Well, I was thinking of something like game warden or, that sort of thing, but apparently she doesn't consider that
I wasn't
that's
thinking.
on the nose. What are you thinking of, Arlene?
Nothing except I was thinking of, sort of vice president in charge of the zoo. But still,
Well, that would be definitely animals.
All right, the conference time is up.
Conservation?
Traffic.
Miss Carr.
My chums haven't helped me at all.
I must admit. Maybe ask if she wears a uniform.
Yes, do you wear some kind of a uniform or costume for what you do?
That's 10 down and no more to
At
go.
least it got you all.
Panel, hang on to your chairs. Mrs. Vaughn is a movie censor for the state of Kansas.
I feel very
What
badly
happened?
about that.
What a happy circumstance brings us all together in the same house. And let's see, Mrs. Vaughn, you got the full prize, and I must say you deserved it. We hope you had fun, too. It was nice having you on What's My Line. Good night, ma'am. All right, panel, let's see. It's going to be a tough night for you. I promise you that. New challenger, will you sign in, please, sir? Cliff Olson. Where are you from, Mr. Olson?
Hickory, North Carolina.
Hickory, North Carolina. Yeah, good deal. Come up today?
No, yesterday.
Yesterday. Well, then you're not very tired, huh?
No, not too tired.
Good. Long trip. Go meet the panel, will you?
Hi. Hello.
Howdy.
Mr. Olson?
All right, Mr. Olson, come on over here and sit down. I know it's hard to tear yourself away from a panel with 3 young ladies on it and just Steve Allen, but you ought to go over here and join me. We'll let them get going on the free guess, which is always given the panel at this point in the game. And we always begin the free guesses with Miss Kilgallen.
I think he's a track coach.
A track coach. Mr. Allen.
I think he installed stingers on Hudson Hornets.
Miss Francis.
I think he hickory cures hams.
Miss Carr.
I think he looks remarkably like the man who was coughing so much in the front row last night.
That he might have been, but that has not anything to do with his line. So we'll let our viewers have a further look at Mr. Olson. At the same time, we will tell them what his line is. And Mr. Olson, the rules are simplicity itself. Every time you give them a no answer, I flip a card. Every flip of the card costs the panel $5, and 10 flips, and you've won the game. All right, Mr. Olson is self-employed, and let's begin the general questioning with Steve Allen.
Mr. Olson, is there a product connected with your work?
Yes.
Is it what might be described as a useful product?
Yes.
Could any of the members here on the panel tonight put this the audience thanks a lot. Let me see. Well, since I'm outnumbered 3-1 here tonight, might I guess that one of my colleagues would be more apt to use this than I would?
Yeah, I think we could say that one of your colleagues would be more apt to use it.
Could this be described as something then decorative or pretty to look at? In any sense at all?
Could be.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Might you ever see one of these things in a place like, say, Tiffany's?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. To nail this right down, then, is this something that a woman would be more apt to use than a man? Yes. Is there sometimes a great deal of sentiment concerned with the use of this particular item?
I would think that we could say that there is sometimes a great deal of sentiment connected with the use of this particular item, yeah.
To get definite again, could one of the members of the panel perhaps be sporting one of these at this moment?
Mr. Olson isn't quite sure, but I will take it upon myself to say yes.
Well, I will take it upon myself to pass.
Miss Francis.
I can only think that all that laughter must in some way be a tribute to Dorothy. And I wonder if this has anything whatsoever to do with motherhood, does it?
Yes.
This product has something to do with motherhood.
Yes.
Would it have anything to do with the clothes that might be worn by a mother?
Yes.
Do you in some way deal in maternity clothes?
Yes.
Do you manufacture maternity clothes?
Doesn't manufacture. $1.90.
I know it doesn't marble them.
Miss Carr.
Do you sell?
Sells maternity clothes. That's right. Mr. Olson, We haven't had this much fun in a long time. Let's flip all the cards and have a lot more fun. Thanks very much. You're a wonderful guest. Very nice going, panel. You knocked that one off. Didn't think you would. Just a moment. We're going to meet tonight's mystery guest. But first, here is Dick Stark to bring you some close harmony.
Friends, here is a timely tune that is just bound to bring back that old barber shop quartet. It's a great new song about that great new shaver, the Remington. Okay, boys, take it away.
For the shave you've always wanted, the shave you've never had, reach for the Remington and you'll be glad. Though your skin is awfully tender, your beard is awfully tough, reach for the Remington and that's enough. For the shaver that can shave a brush will make your beard behave. The shaver that can shave a peach will give you a peach of a shave. So tomorrow see your dealer and try it for a while. Reach for the Remington on this free trial. And you ladies, if you're shopping for presents on the sly, reach for the Remington to give your guy.
Oh, thank you, boys. That's wonderful. Isn't that a wonderful song? I particularly like the part right in here that goes, for the shaver that can shave a brush will make your beard behave. The shaver that can shave a peach will give you a peach of a shave. Believe me, that is really the truth. This amazing Remington will give you a close, comfortable shave no matter how tough your beard, no matter how tender your skin. You know, that is so true. Men are getting such wonderful shaves from the Remington that throughout the world, more people buy Remington shavers than any other make.
So tomorrow see your dealer and try it for a while. Reach for the Remington on this free trial. And you ladies, if you're shopping for presents on the sly, reach for the Remington to give your guy.
And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity. My friends in the panel would recognize our guest immediately, so as usual, they have been supplied with blindfolds. Are they all in place, panel?
Yes, sir.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery celebrity, we get right down to the general questioning, which we will begin with Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Are you in the world of entertainment?
Grab it.
What'd you say? What did it say?
I asked the same question, Miss Dorothy. That was Martian talk. It means yes.
Are you in what might be termed show business rather than the athletic world?
Reindendorf and Skyboing.
That's yes, too.
That means yes.
Are you a performer?
The move.
That also means yes.
Have you ever been in the movies?
It's a moo-moo.
That means yes, too.
Have you ever been on television?
Gleekendorf and Treaty Sack.
That means indubitably.
Do you do anything in addition to straight acting, such as comedy, singing, dancing, or playing a musical instrument?
Cloth and Tapper.
This means yes. Oh, thank you.
Well, do you sing?
One down and 9 to go. That was a no, Mr. Allen.
Are you a man?
Cosmetic on sign, boy. Phoebe.
That means no. 2 down and 8 to go. Miss Francis.
Bravely on the treacle by the Kranz band.
Cloth and Tapper.
You are, therefore, a woman. Correct?
Very good, Miss Arlene.
Are you a leading woman rather than a character actress?
It's a moo.
Huh?
As I remember, moo was yes a few questions ago.
I'm having a little trouble here. Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You say you have appeared on television indubitably. Does that mean that you are seen quite a lot on television?
Crying song.
That means yes.
Yes? Do you have your own show on television?
Langendorf and Geisy.
I take it there are three, huh?
A flag is speaking too.
Do you have somebody with you on television? What does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
I see. You are a couple, either a man and wife or a man and a woman who play a dramatic half hour of some kind.
You want me to take you out of that, or you want to get out by yourself, Marlene?
Her language has got me all mixed up.
Yes would be the answer to that.
Yes would be the answer?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a picture of yours now playing on Broadway?
Moo, moo.
No, wait a minute. We got to have a conference.
It's moo, moo.
No?
In the term as we use, playing in Broadway, yes.
Have you been in, certainly the top 10 or 15 in television shows?
En die Augenblock-Tung beim Sigurdsson Geist. And Flug and Die. I forgot Flug and Die.
This is what happens when you have General Lumforms that come to this program. That would be yes.
That would be yes.
Mm-hmm.
Were you not too long ago interested in the same kind of clothes that the previous contestant had as his profession on this program?
On Flabbendaben.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Miss Carr, do you know who this is?
Well, I think it must be.
Who do you think it is?
Must be Lucy.
It certainly is. It's Lucy.
That's wonderful, isn't it? What? To hear somebody like Miss Lucille Ball come and say that she was so nervous she almost didn't have a voice left. I suppose that's one reason why you're such a fine artist, because you do have the humility to be, and I use the word in its best sense, to be a little bit nervous no matter what.
Thank you.
But I also know that you're in New York with other interests than television and your picture, and I figured that was something probably you would rather talk about than me talk about.
Well, it's certainly a very exciting 10 days that we are embarked upon. It's sort of half over. I think we're going to make the grade. I think we're going to get home all right. But New York after 4 years, wowee! I just want to say one thing. The Heart Fund needs your help. Help your heart. Help the Heart Fund. Please. Good night, everyone.
Very succinctly put. Thanks very much for being here.
Come back home, will you?
Now, thanks. We've had two wonderful people now. We had Desi Arnaz some time ago, now his lovely wife. We have, I think, very little time, but we have a very tricky occupation. I think we'd like to see what the panel can do with it. So our next challenger, come in and sign in, please. Tom Wiswell. Thank you, sir. Where are you from?
Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York? Fine. You come on over here with me, if you will, because we don't have time for you to walk down in front of the panel. Panel, we have very little time. Actually, you have less than 2 minutes to try and get a rather special kind of occupation. You get your free guesses first. We begin with Miss Kilgallen.
Income tax investigator.
Mr. Allen.
I think Wiswell predicts in baby talk.
Miss Francis.
I think he's a laboratory technician.
Miss Carr.
I think he puts the pimentos in olives.
No, nobody has it. We'll let our viewers have a further look at Mr. Wiswell, tell them at the same time what his line is, and then see what the panel can do with it. All right, Mr. Wiswell, You know the rules. We flip the card every time, and 10 flips, and you've got it. Mr. Wiswell is self-employed. Let's begin the general questioning with Miss Carr.
Do you deal in services, Mr.?
Yes.
Is there a product connected with
No.
what you do?
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do your services pertain to both men and women?
Yes.
Do you do mental type work?
Yes.
Is your work more mental than physical?
Yes.
Do you need a special training for your job?
Yes.
Do you work indoors?
Yes.
Do people come to you?
Sometimes.
And sometimes you go to them?
Sometimes.
Do you ever have occasion to touch them?
No. Wouldn't think so. 2 down and 8 to go, and Steve, we got about 20 seconds.
Do you work in the area of one of the sciences? I think so.
No, not...
Most people say no.
No, I would not...
Most people say no.
Not technically speaking. It's not a science. 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Arley.
Is there anything spiritual about your work?
I don't think so.
No, that, I think, winds up. I was hoping that you might take a wild stab and get this because it's a very interesting occupation. Mr. Weswell is the world's champion professional checker player.
Oh.
And he gets the full prize by reason of default on time, and our thanks for being our guest. Thank you, sir. We'll be back. We'll be back in just a moment, but first here is Dick Stark with an impressive reminder.
A whopping big $7.50 trade-in allowance. That's 50% more than anyone else gives you, and that's what you'll get for your old electric shaver when you turn it in on this man-size Remington. Yes, sirree. So tomorrow, trade in your old shaver and reach for the Remington, a product of Remington Rand, famous, too, for Remington typewriters and the finest in business machines.
And now, before our panel says goodnight, may I remind you to tune in again next Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, when once again we invite you to play What's My Line? For other localities, check your local listings for the date and time of our weekly series.
Here is an offer from Stop at Spray Deodorant that you won't want to miss, but you'll have to hurry. This special value package of new Stop at with its anti-immunity factor gives you a 45-day trial bottle free when you buy new Stop at the regular price. Use the trial bottle, and we know you'll be convinced that new Stop at is more effective than ever. Otherwise, return the regular size and your money will be refunded. This offer is limited, but you may still be able to find this special package with its generous trial bottle in your store. So hurry.
Well, it's been grand having Miss Deborah Carr as our guest tonight. I didn't think you could get 3 such lovely women sitting in one desk all at one time. And Miss Carr appeared tonight on behalf of the New York Lighthouse for the Blind. In appreciation, the producers of What's My Line are sending a check in her name to that very worthy cause. And we offer our thanks for having such a lovely guest on our program. Next week, we'll have another guest panelist. And until next week, this is John Daly saying good night, Dorothy.
Good night, Steve.
Get your pajamas on, boys, and good night, Arlene.
Do that, won't you, boys? It was lovely to have you with us, Deborah, and good night.
Thank you, Arlene. Good night, and good night, John.
Good night, ma'am. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for being with us on What's My Line?
This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Codman production in association with the CBS Television Network.
Time now for everybody's favorite guessing game, What's My Line? Brought to you by Remington Rand, makers of the world's #1 electric shaver, the Remington. Now, let's all play What's My Line?
Now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the popular Broadway columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in the New York Journal American and papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you. Thank you. And now I'm very happy to welcome back to the program someone that we're always pleased to have visit us because he's so nice and such a good game player. He's the star of his own show on this network every weekday, and he's substituting for Fred Allen tonight, Robert Hugh Lewis.
Thank you, darling. I wish I were a cricket. If I were a cricket, I could introduce Arlene Francis to my left by simply saying...
And if I were a boy cricket, I'd say the same thing about you. And someone tells me that they play What's My Line around the house quite a bit, and What's My Line has come out with a game that you can buy at stores very soon, so that you'll have it right handy there to play with if you'd like to. That's What's My Line, and the fellow that knows a lot about that is the columnist publisher on my left, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
And on my left, of course, is a man who is not only a news analyst and panel moderator, but one of the greatest piccolo players of our time, John Charles Daly.
Just to get the record straight, I can't even play a bazoo, let alone a piccolo. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. Once again tonight, some very interesting occupations, some nice people who brought them here. We're going to try to fool the panel with them. I think we're going to have some success. We'll have a famous guest challenger for these experts a bit later on. But I think it's time for my friends now to meet the first challenger whose line has to be spotted. So will you sign in, please, sir? Raymond? Raymond Fadden. Is that right, sir? Are you Miss Fadden? Nervous? Not a bit. Oh, I forgot all about that. Don't say any more. Where are you from, Mr. Fadden?
In New York.
Oh, from New York? Oh, fine. We try to give the panel a little help with contestants. We like to give them a chance to see them close on, so to speak. So would you take a hike down there in front of the panel for me?
Oh, Mr. Fadden.
Hi, Mr. Fadden.
Mr. Fadden? All right, Mr. Fadden, right over here, if you will, and sit down next to me. I would ask you, first of all, if you're familiar with our scoring system. Do you know how we score this operation? Would you pull your chair in, please? And then I think all we need to do is let the folks at home and our friends here in the theater know exactly what your line is. Panel, Mr. Fadden is salaried. With that, let's begin the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mr. Fadden, you're one of the most self-composed gentlemen we've had here in a long time. Do you perform a service of some kind?
May I interrupt just a minute? Would you lean forward a bit, sir? This is your microphone. It's all yours.
I do. Do people come to you to have this service performed?
Yes.
They do. Well, if I were to avail myself of your services, would you send my spirits soaring upward?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Very good answer. Possibly.
You mean you could also have the opposite effect on me?
Yes, it could.
Depending on circumstances.
That's right.
Would these services involve your touching me in any way?
No.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
I do.
Do you use anything besides just your hands in your work?
I do.
You use a variety of things rather than just one thing like a pencil?
No.
Wait a minute, we'll have to have a small conference. I think Mr. Fadden would be willing to agree just to obviate the possibility that we might be unfair or in any way, deny you the help that you properly should have. I think Mr. Fadden would be willing to agree that he uses in your terms of reference more than the one utensil.
Good to be back, Dorothy.
He's so kind to us, isn't he? Thank you, John. Mr. Fadden, do you work in an enclosure?
Yes, I do.
Does your work ever take you from one place in the enclosure to another?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute. May I have another conference? Good deal. Yes, fine. All right, go ahead.
Does the enclosure ever move around?
No. That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Lewis.
I thought it might be another bus driver.
You work in an enclosure that does not move around. Do you wear approximately what you are wearing now in your work, Mr. Fadden?
I do.
There's no special garb of any kind. Your work, then, is probably more mental than it would be physical. Is that correct?
It's more mental, yeah.
More mental.
Wait a minute.
John usually only has this many conferences with a pretty girl.
I think we'll have to give you a no on that because there is a very substantial area of physical effort in this. That's 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
May I guess that this enclosure is not an office building?
May you guess that?
Yes, it
You
is not
certainly-
an office building.
You certainly may.
Oh, you were getting ready to say... Is it a place of entertainment of any kind, this place that you work?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any product at all connected with what you do in this enclosure?
Not within our terms of reference.
May I tell you what my term of reference was?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of animals.
Animals?
Now it's cleared up,
that's
isn't
too
it?
bad.
Aren't you glad?
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Fadden, at the moment there are some events taking place at a couple of baseball stadiums around New York. Would you have any connection whatever with the honorable's pastime of baseball?
Yeah.
You have. Well, obviously...
Pee-wee Reese.
Obviously, you're not an outfielder for the Yankees because you're hale and hearty.
Bennett. Well, now.
Mr. Fadden, is your work done out of sight of the audience at a baseball game?
Out of the sight of the audience at a baseball game.
I mean, the crowd at the game wouldn't see you while you're performing this duty?
They see me perform the duty.
No, but they don't see you physically while you perform it. That's
They don't
right.
see you physically. Have you got anything to do with the scoring of the game? Are you one of the official scorekeepers of the World Series?
One of the official scorekeepers
No.
of the World Series, he is not. That makes it 5 down and 5 to go. Miss Gilgallen.
Do you have anything to do with the numbers coming up on the scoreboard every time the Dodgers get a home run?
Actually, I think you hit it right on the head. Mr. Fadden operates the scoreboard at Ebbets Field, which is done manually. As you know, it's not
He's
a big
been busy,
automatic.
hasn't he?
He's been a very busy man. He's been so busy, we'll flip these all over anyway. But, Mr. Madden, must be fun doing this in the World Series. Is this your first one, or have you done this before?
Sixth.
Your 6th World Series. You ever made a mistake up there that gave anybody any trouble?
It's a cinch on the single game.
It's a cinch on a single game. Well, thanks very much, Mr. Fadden. It's wonderful to have you with us. All right, panel, a very good beginning. Let's see what you can do with another challenger. Will you sign in, please, sir? Victor G. Perry. Is that right, sir? Where are you from, Mr. Perry?
London, England.
From London. Big, isn't he? Huh? Wow. Golly day, you are a big man, huh? Well, from London, eh?
That's right.
Would you be good enough to let the panel have a closer look at you?
Certainly.
Thank you.
How do you do?
Shake hands gently, Mr. Perry.
Hello, Mr. Perry.
How do you do?
Hello, Mr. Perry.
All right, Mr. Perry, if you will, over here and sit down next to me. And I would ask you, as I do all, are you familiar with our scoring system?
Yes.
No answer, we flip a card, you know? Fine, then let's let the people at home and our friends in the theater know exactly what your line is. Mr. Perry is self-employed. Let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
He's self-employed, and boy, he sure employs a lot. Well, Mr. Perry, you have the build for it. Is there anything physical about your job?
Yes.
Would it be considered a sport of any kind that you're involved with?
No.
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Perry, are you in any way connected with the entertainment business?
Yes.
You are.
Mm-hmm.
Do people come to see you do something?
Yes.
You're not connected in any way with the Doily Card Company, are you?
No.
I said you're not. Yes,
yes,
he's not
Mr.
connected.
Perry is not connected with the Doily Card Company, no.
Do you have a deep, resonant voice? Do you ever raise it in song?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, when you perform, are you on stage in full view of the audience?
Yes and no.
Oh. Well, are you on stage, but not in full view of the audience?
Sometimes.
Wait a minute, I'm getting confused.
To think of Mr. Perry on stage and not in full view is difficult.
Yes.
Small stage.
The question is, are you ever on stage when you are not in full view of the audience,
That's right.
That was the question, Miss Callaghan. We understood it perfectly. We'll now give her a no. That's 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Lewis.
You're sure you're not connected? I mean, I'm right in assuming you are not connected in baseball. I was thinking of the team of the House of Sir David.
Yes,
Since you're
I'm
British.
not connected with them.
You are an entertainer. You are sometimes in full view of your audience. There are times when you are not. Does your act have anything to do with the times when you are not in full view of your audience?
Yes, it does.
Ah, glad to hear that. Know that kind of an act? Does your act involve... are you ever involved with members of the audience in your act?
Yes.
Is it a form of audience participation, then?
Yes.
It might be said that the audience participates, yes.
Well, then, you might use members of the audience on stage after you had perhaps talked to them, or would you go down into the audience to bring them up on stage?
Yes.
Is what you do with these people something that they like to have done to them?
Yes and no.
Well, suppose you performed your act on me and brought me up on stage. Would I be happy about it, or would I be... let me ask you this. Are you a hypnotist by any chance?
Ah, that's 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you have anything to do with television at all?
Yes.
Do you ever say in the commercials, soap, my lord?
No.
You don't do that?
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Perry, have you done most of your television work in England?
No.
6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are there any props in your act?
No.
7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Lewis.
Is your act primarily a television act or a theater act? Is it
Can't
performed...
be answered yes or no. Which?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Is your act primarily an act which would be performed in a theater?
No.
It would be more often performed on television, then?
No.
Wait a minute.
Yes, I'm really hitting the jackpot.
I don't think he's told John what he does.
No.
You can't change it now, John.
No is right. 8 down and 2 to go, Miss Francis.
All right, now, it's gotten a little bit mixed up, so I do want to clarify it. He does not perform in a theater.
And
he does not
so.
perform...
The question as it was posed was, is this primarily an act performed in theater? No.
Ah. And then he said, is it an act primarily performed in television?
No.
And he said no.
Mm-hmm.
But you do work in television, don't you?
Yes.
And you are not an announcer.
I am not an announcer,
And
yes.
you are not an announcer.
He doesn't really.
And you do not act. You don't use your voice in your job at all?
I do use my voice.
Well, that's...
To know.
Well, I know, but... Well, I didn't mean to ask it that way. He hypnotized me. You can get him a new line of work.
9 down and 1 to go, Mr. Sir.
Now, Mr. Perry, you said earlier that your physical bulk played some part in what you did.
Yes.
Therefore, do you perform some feat of dexterity?
Yes.
would you call it some kind of acrobatics?
Acrobatics. No. That's 10 down and no more to go.
Is he a dancer?
A dancer?
No.
Golly,
Weightlifter.
pickpockets? One of those pickpockets? Yeah, one of those pickpockets is right, but it's too late. I've had a wonderful time chatting with Mr. Perry before the show, and I think you'll all enjoy a story that he had to tell me. He has performed, it's an act, by the way, performed mostly in nightclubs, which is why you got to know on the theater and television. But he's performed before the Queen, and when he was all through, the Queen said, "Wonderful. It's a good thing you're honest." But he came in to the States not too long ago. Was it last week?
I came in last week, actually, on customs. Actually, my wife bought some Arpege perfume on the boat, and I kept it in my pocket so that when I got to the customs, I wouldn't have to undo the cases. And when I got to the customs, I didn't have it. I don't know whether I dropped it or had my pocket pickers got me worried.
Mr. Perry, in all this time, have you succeeded in lifting something from John?
No, not yet. Why, should I still do that?
Well, Mr. Perry, thank you very much. It's been great having you. Your book. In just a moment, we'll meet tonight's mystery guest. To the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which my friends are blindfolded. The blindfolds are all in place, panel?
They are, yes.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, we changed the form of questioning a bit. You ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise, and we'll begin it all with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Are you Duke Snyder?
Are you Duke Snyder? That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Lewis.
I didn't hear the answer.
No.
Who answered?
I did.
Well, why?
You want to hear the real one answer?
Sure.
Yes.
Would you answer the question, please? Are you Duke Snyder? Mr. Lewis.
Well, just to clear it up once and for all, could we have seen you on television earlier today?
Miss Francis?
Boy, I wasn't around earlier today.
The series.
You meant the series?
Yeah.
No, but it isn't a man.
There
is
has been
it?
no call for a
No,
conference.
all
Miss
right,
Francis,
I'm
you may
terribly
proceed.
sorry. Are you engaged in the entertainment world?
Mr. Sir?
Are you, and I hope you are, a lady? By that I mean of the female persuasion.
Yeah, I think so.
Miss Kilgallen?
Are you in the motion pictures?
Mr. Lewis?
And you are also in television and... let me rephrase my first question, because this got an unusual answer. Could we have seen you on television earlier today?
That was yes.
That was
Miss
yes
Francis?
before.
I still don't understand the answer.
Only now it's not a ball player. I don't think. Are you here in New York just for the World Series?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Sir.
Have you a husband who is possibly just as well known as you are?
Yeah.
Miss Kilgallen?
Have you ever made any records where you sang?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Lewis.
But I did see you earlier on television today. And it was very good. Should I disqualify myself, John? Because this ridiculous question, I disqualify myself. I know who it is. I know who it is.
Take a guess.
I know who it is.
Well, say it. That's what
The world's greatest comedian, Lucille Ball. Gotta be. I don't know.
Is that right?
I almost took my mask
makes
not...
it 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
You sure it's not Duke Snyder?
Not Desi Arnaz. You say that you're married. Is the man that you're married to also in the picture business?
Yeah.
Mr. Sir?
Can I take a wild guess? Probably not. Are you
Sure.
Loren Bacall?
Loren? Oh, for heaven's sake. There you go. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you the voluptuous blonde type?
I don't think so.
6 down and 4 to go, Mr. Lewis.
Are you sure I saw you on television?
Yeah, I won't let that count as a question,
All
but
right,
you are
thank
reassured.
You. Do you have anything to do with the program, with the Lucy show?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Francis?
It's not Desi Arnaz. You're on I Love Lucy? Mm-hmm. I mean, is that the question that Bob just asked?
Well, the question was, do you have anything to do with I Love Lucy show?
She doesn't sound like a stagehand.
Are you Lucy's girlfriend? Mm-mm.
6 down and 4 to go, Mr. Sir.
It's both of them.
We didn't hear Desi at all.
Yeah, that was me.
That was you.
Which one was
That's what made it
She
so
was
much
the
fun.
Swedish one, and I was there. Mm-hmm.
And you see, Swedish? Swedish.
But you had some kind of an accent, didn't you?
Yeah.
What, Swedish?
Swedish.
What is Swedish?
Cuban Swede.
Cuban Swedish.
Isn't that a dirty trick?
Because,
Yeah, pretty sure it was,
but I'm sure you don't mind it. Because one reason, actually, that Desi and Miss Lucille are here is tomorrow night's a happy night when you all come back for the new season at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, but that's not really the reason. The reason is that we love you so very, very much, and every time we get to New York, we love to visit with you.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
Well,
I
were
never
you on
miss you, and
television
we-
today?
What, darling?
Were you on television today?
Sure.
Briefly on
Yeah,
Ed Sullivan.
we just went over and took a look at Ed's show.
You were on at 6 o'clock, New York Times.
Oh, that's
Lucy.
right, the Lucy Sunday
very
show.
Funny. Watch
That's
it
right.
sometime. It's very funny.
The Lucy show. CBS on Sunday. That's what I thought was the only clue that Bob had.
You know, being the nearest one to you, I usually spot it when there are two people on. But tonight...
How?
Well, I hear the two different voices, but tonight I was fooled completely.
I thought maybe you looked down at the feet.
Possibly, yeah.
No, as Mark Goodson, I think, proved last night on something, he works only with shows where you can't see anybody's feet. That's what he
Sounded
said.
like Betty Bacall in
Yes,
the
it
beginning.
did.
It sounded just like her with that.
Well,
I like that.
I must say this, I speak for all of us. We had a wonderful time when you visited us last time, and we've had as much fun this time, and we hope that you'll come back and see us again.
Next year, same
Wonderful
time,
to see
same
you both.
station.
Will you go and say hello to
Next
the
year,
press?
we'll bring both of the kids next year.
All
We'll be
right,
more of them.
good.
Good deal. Nice to see you. Good night. Good night, Leslie. Wonderful. Oh, until next week, this is John Dady saying good night, Miss Dorothy.
Good night, John. And may I tell the girls in the audience that Lucy's blouse was pink mink?
Pink
So,
mink?
Come next week. Bye-bye.
Good night, Dorothy. May I tell the men in the audience, Desi's tie was blue. Good night, Arlene.
Good night, Bob. We'll see you again next week,
I
won't
hope
we?
so.
That's fine. Good night, Bennett.
Good night. Before I say good night to John, I want him to explain to me sometime how that Mr. Perry's weight had anything to do with his being a pickpocket.
Because he's so heavy and yet he's doing something so delicate. See, there is the juxtaposition that makes it more interesting. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. And thanks for being with us on What's My Line?
Transportation for What's My Line is arranged through American Airlines, America's leading airline, serving 77 major cities throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico.
This has been a Mark Goodson, Bill Codman production in association with the CBS Television Network. What's My Line? Brought to you by Allstate, whose policies now include protection for your home, your family, as well as your car. You're in good hands with Allstate. And now, let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And to my left this evening, one of the very best comedians around, whose success has skyrocketed him right into the Empire Room of the Waldorf, where he opens on Thursday night, Shelley Berman.
And to my left, a very charming actress I had the pleasure of getting to know last summer at the Bucks County Playhouse, Miss Faye Emerson.
And on my left, the distinguished publisher of Random House, who only hopes he'll be as successful in 61 as he was in 60, 59, 58, etc., Mr. Bennett Cerf.
I'm sorry to say that for our first show of 1961, our Dorothy Kilgallen has a very, very sore shoulder, and she couldn't be here tonight, so we got Faye, who only has a broken leg. And the next voice and face that you see on this program will be that of our panel moderator, that lordly logomachist, John Charles Daly.
That is the first and probably the only nice thing that Bennett's going to say about me during all of 1961, because I know what it means. Thank you, Bennett. And, folks, it's nice to have you all here. I must say, I do recommend unreservedly the glories of the 50th state called Hawaii. It was nice to come home to the weather. I wish I was back in the sunshine sometimes, at least I have today. But it's nice to see so many happy faces over there on the panel. We'll wipe the smiles off those faces in just a moment. Needless to say, you've probably noticed already we have a new member of the family tonight, the Allstate Insurance Companies, and we're very pleased that they wish to join What's My Line. We've been here for a long, long time, many years, over 10 years, and it's nice to have this new member in the family tonight. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after this word. And now let's meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Ike Eisenhower. And John Kennedy. Well, draw nigh, gentlemen. I must say you both changed in appearance a good deal while I was away. And it's nice to have you both with us. Could you tell us where you're from, Mr. Eisenhower?
Washington, D.C.
And Mr. Kennedy?
Denver, Colorado.
Where did you say?
Washington, D.C.
I must say, I hope the president's watching tonight. This is going to be a big shock to him. And where are you from, sir?
I'm from Denver, Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. If you'd said Palm Beach, Mr. Kennedy, or Massachusetts, I'd have fallen over in a dead faint. Well, may I present our panel, Messrs. Eisenhower and Kennedy, and would you join me over here, gentlemen? Do you know how we keep score on What's My Line?
Yes.
All right, then we'll let the folks here in the theater and those in the viewing audience at home know exactly what your line is. Fine. All right, panel, we can tell you that Messrs. Eisenhower and Kennedy are both salaried and they deal in a product. With that, let's begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Is this product something that one would find in the home?
Yes.
Would it ever be in the White House?
Yes.
Is it a product that I could hold in my hand?
Yes.
Has the president got one?
I think the answer to that must be no. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Berman.
I'm afraid to pursue this. It sounds dirty. The president hasn't got one. We know that, right? I mean, would I offend America if I asked if his lady has one?
You would not offend America.
No, she doesn't have one?
Yes.
Oh, she does have one. Is this a product that might be used by other women besides the president's lady?
Yes. Yes.
Would this product be used specifically more by females than by males?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Only by females?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is it...
Now, let me say here that the specific product with which Mr. Eisenhower and Mr. Kennedy are identified would be used only by ladies, but this does not rule out the possibility that the general classification could have an application to men.
What do you say there? I don't... well, since you say that, how's your brother Bob, incidentally? Would I ever have occasion to use a product of this nature?
A product of this nature?
Or we have a product involved here, don't we?
Yeah, well, here again, with your permission, Messieurs Eisenhower and Kennedy, I would say that you might have occasion to use the product in its general identification, while it's not true that you would use the specific element of product which is represented here by Messieurs Eisenhower and Kennedy.
You're making me crazy. Would my wife use the product?
Yes.
That's peculiar because I'm not married. No, I was just being facetious. I am married, and I have a very lovely wife. But she would use the product. Is it something that
Shelley,
she would...
that's what you call climbing back down from the limb, is it?
Yes. Would this be a product that is worn?
Yes.
Would it be worn above the waistline?
Yes.
Would it be worn also a little below the waistline?
Yes.
I guess it's pretty much worn all over, isn't it?
How long you've had it?
Is it something that you can see? I mean, if my wife was wearing this, would I be able to see it?
Sometimes.
With your wife, maybe.
Yeah. Would I see it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Suppose I had a good friend.
Mr. Berman, would you like to pass?
As a matter of fact, I think it would be dangerous for me to continue. I will pass right now.
Miss Emerson?
I gather, then, that the names Eisenhower and Kennedy really have nothing to do with your product. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that a lady might be wearing while walking down the street, but it would not be visible to the naked eye? We hope.
Yes. Yes.
Is it not just for ornamentation, then? It serves some utilitarian purpose?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think so.
Yeah, I guess you could describe it as utilitarian.
Would there be some ladies that require the use of this garment more than other ladies?
Yes, so. I think so.
Well, let's say that some ladies would seek more from it than others would.
Would it be in the nature of an undergarment of any kind, which is a pretty refined way of saying a girdle or a bra?
General term.
Girdle?
Yeah.
You meant girdle.
Right. I must say that I should. It's very early in 1961, and I should avoid this sort of thing, but I can't, because if I don't do it, Bennett will be right up behind me. I'd say this is putting down a pretty good foundation for 1900.
Stretching it a bit, but...
John, I wouldn't have said that.
You wouldn't have said that?
No, sir.
Well, actually, Bennett, you didn't know that both Messrs. Eisenhower and Kennedy worked for the H.W. Gossard Company, which make foundation garments. It's not a very funny story, I'm afraid. But there you are. Mr. Eisenhower has the territory in Baltimore and Washington, and you have Wyoming and Colorado.
Rocky Mountains.
Well, I would say it's fair to assume you both cover a great deal of territory.
That's right.
Are they related in any way?
Are you related in any way to the president's
No,
family?
I'm not related.
Are you any related?
Nor am I.
No?
For a while there, I was positive they sold skin. I didn't.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kennedy
Thank
and
you.
Mr. Eisenhower. It was nice to have you on our first program.
Thank you very much.
That's a very good idea. Mr. Kennedy, I think, reminded us all of something. It's still time for us to say in unison, Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New
Year.
I said unison, panel. There we are. Well, let's try our second challenge. Would you enter and sign in, please?
Roosevelt.
Mrs. Roosevelt.
Ruby Logsden, is that right? Is it Miss or Mrs. Logsden? Mrs. Logsden, and where are you from?
Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky? Nice to have me. I present our panel, Mrs. Logsden. How do you do? Now, will you join me over here, Mrs. Logsden? You know how we keep score.
Yes, I do.
All right, then we'll let the audience here, the audience at home, know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, Mrs. Logsden is self-employed, deals in a service. And let's start the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. Logsden, there are three things I'd like to eliminate from Louisville, if I can. Famous for the Kentucky Derby, famous for a wonderful newspaper, the Courier-Journal, and famous for distilleries. Can I eliminate all those three from the service that you perform?
Yes.
Does the service that you do then perform relate to human beings?
It relates to human beings, but I must say, you know, there's almost no area in which Mrs. Logsden might be occupied which would not have some relation to human beings.
Well, then can I eliminate the fact that you have anything to do with the bodies or the brains of the people whom you perform the service for?
Specifically, yes.
You then perform some service outside of their bodies.
Yes.
Does this service enable something that they own to work better or to be better?
Something they own to work better or to be better?
Yes.
Well, I would think that when you got through with your service, what they own would not be better, would it? No, I don't think. I've got to give you a no there, Bennett. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you have anything to do with houses or homes in your service? Or furniture, furnishings?
Yes.
Would you have anything to do with house wrecking or...
For Lord's sake, Freddy.
Well, that really was pulled out of the blue for New Year's.
That sweet little woman, a home wrecker.
Actually, that's right. Mrs. Logsden is a house wrecker. She owns the Bluegrass Wrecking Company in Louisville, and you'll be glad to know that wrecking all kinds of buildings, it takes, what, anywhere from how many days? 3 days to a week to knock a building?
Oh, it could be from 3 days to 3 months.
To 3 months to knock a building down.
Depends on what it is.
But the one thing, Mrs. Logsden gets right out there and takes a hand with a pick herself.
You don't
That's
use
great.
one of those great big balls that they swing across against the building.
We haven't yet. If we had anything big enough, we would.
Would you?
But Louisville doesn't have any real big buildings like New York does.
Well, I must say, we thought this was going to stand the panel on its ear. That's the first good exercise for 1961. And thank you very much for being our guest, and may we wish you a happy new year and much success wrecking games. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment, but first, a word from us. Now, Bennett says I owe Mrs. Logston an apology, and he's probably right. He said I gave it away when I said that the product was not to be improved by the service that you did. Well, I'll make it up to her, Bennett. And now we come to the special part of our program, with which you are all so familiar. Mr. Berman. Needless to say, the panel is supposed to be blindfolded, Mr. Berman. Up anchor there a bit. No, down anchor a bit. All right, the blindfold's all in place, panel?
Yes.
All right, will you enter Mystery Challenger and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our Mystery Challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise. And let's begin with Faye Emerson.
Oh, that's a marvelous, warm reception. Obviously, you're known to the public, the general public. Are you in the field of entertainment or the arts?
Yes.
Mr. Cerf?
Are you at present starring in a show on Broadway?
Yes.
Miss Francis?
Have you been enormously popular in pictures and television? It's almost impossible.
You have your answer to that one already, Mr. Berman.
Was that yes?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Berman.
Jot it down like the Lou.
You've got to be a she. Are you a she?
Oh, what?
A she.
Oh, yes.
Miss Emerson?
Oh, boy. You're a doll. Are you a red-headed wildcat?
I suppose those are two of a multitude of terms of affection that are always used when you are mentioned.
Thank you, John.
Wildcat and a doll.
John, I would like to add that she is one of the blessings of this season and an adornment to the theater. It's wonderful.
And the Wildcat, by the way, unless anybody misunderstands, is that Miss Ball is starring on Broadway in a new musical called Wildcat. We did not say you were a Wildcat, ma'am. We didn't mean that, ma'am.
We may.
All right.
Yes, I did.
It's all right?
We did.
All right.
You did?
Okay.
Well, I guess that...
I don't mind it. I kind of like it.
You like it? You like it? This is a...
I lost 12 pounds getting that way.
You mean getting to be a Wildcat?
Yeah.
Or rehearsing for the Broadway person? Sure.
Rehearsing and doing it. If anybody wants a diet to go on, just get in a musical show. That's it. Am I right, Arlene?
She's
Faye?
on there every minute, working and playing and
I love
dancing
it.
and singing, and she's
I've had a
marvelous.
wonderful time.
Miss Lucille, you have had a wonderful career in the theater, in television, in the movies. Does any one of them appeal to you more than the other?
Well, I'm very grateful to television. 9 years with a character that I love very much. I love Lucy. I really do. I love doing Lucy, and I'm having a sort of a dream come true doing a show on Broadway. It's taken me a long time to come by this. It was what I wanted to do, to be on the stage when I first started years ago, and I never had time. So I'm delighted to finally be here. What are you doing, George? What's that?
V for victory. That's the V for victory sign. Well, I'd say the Broadway stage, as Arlene has already noted so well, is extraordinarily lucky to have you. I've
Thank
been
you.
off to Hawaii, but one of my anticipations is that I can get to see Wildcat, because I want to see Miss Lucille Ball on the Broadway stage.
Thank
Her new picture's opening soon, too, isn't it, with Bob
Thank
Hope?
you,
And it's a
Arlene.
wonderful
Oh, with Bob Hope, The Facts of Life.
Yes.
The two of you together.
February 1st.
The two of you together must be a shambles and a joy. That's
We had
all
a
I can think
wonderful
of.
time.
It's a funny
He's a
picture.
great guy.
Did you see it?
I saw a preview
Oh,
of it. It's a
good.
great picture, and
Thank
I think it's going to be up for an award.
Oh, my. That'll
Very
be the
unusual
day.
for a comedy.
That'll be a day when a comedy gets an award.
But the wonderful thing about Bob Hope again, you know, this Christmas he was off to see the troops overseas. that
Well, the
are
wonderful
parked
thing
in our
about Bob
corner.
Hope is Dolores.
Hey, she is a doll. She's
That's
a
how he gets
wonderful
off every
girl.
Christmas.
Yes, if Dolores didn't say yes, he couldn't. Thank you very much,
Thank
Miss
you.
Lucille. Nice to have you with us. Well, I must admit you've done very well so far tonight, panel. We'll have another contestant after this word from our alternate sponsor. And now another contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Mary and Creighton Coleman, right? And I am right in saying Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, right? Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, and where are you from?
Battle Creek.
Battle Creek, Michigan. Oh, yes, I know that country. I went out there once many years ago. Ate so much breakfast food they had to carry me out of town.
Kellogg's, I suppose.
But it's nice to have you with us. May I present our panel?
How do you do?
Would you join me over here now, please? Excuse me if I go in first. Mrs. Coleman, you know how we keep score?
Yes,
All right, if we know how we keep score, then let's let the audience here and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we're very short of time, so very quickly I will tell you that Mr. and Mrs. Creighton are salaried and deal in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Shelley Berman.
Would your services be applied to me, for example?
Possibly.
Yesterday's water. Are your services used by both men and women?
Yes.
Mhm. Would I have to come to you to get the service that you render?
Yes.
Is it, would you in any way come into physical contact with me?
No.
No. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Emerson.
It's a shame.
Do you work in some kind of enclosure for these services? Or do you give these services in some kind of enclosure?
Yes.
Do you wear any special kind of, not uniform, but clothes or something for your services?
No.
Yes.
Oh, you do? Yes and no?
So you get a yes and no.
Oh, one of you does, the other doesn't. Oh, but you do work at the same service.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. If he wears her and she doesn't. Would it be in any way in a counseling line or a legal or...
Could be. Yes.
Do you have anything to do with education?
No, not specifically. 2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Sir.
Do you work, Mr. and Mrs. Coleman it is? I swear I've met you both.
I think it's likely myself. Actually, this is too bad because I do wish we had a little more time. What are they?
They've got to be policemen or something.
Now, they're in government work somehow or other.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge?
Judges are right, but they're all over it.
Arlene had the same idea. Is it judge and what?
Well, actually,
Jury.
Judge.
Judge in the circuit court, Mr. Coleman, and judge in the probate court, Mrs. Coleman. So Mrs. Coleman does not wear judicial robes normally, Whereas Mr. Coleman would wear his judicial robes
That
normally.
lady's a judge?
A judge elected both of them to office, and more than that, Mrs. Coleman was Miss Maryland, I believe. Were you not when, before you were married? Miss University of Maryland? Do you know Dr. Ray Ernsberger at the University of Maryland?
No, I don't.
He practically brought me up.
John.
This was a long time ago.
Yes, yes. Well, may I thank you both for being our guests, and I'm sorry we didn't have more time, although the panel was very sharp. We're a little bit tight for time tonight, so I will say for all of us, if I may, Happy New Year and good night, and thanks for being with us on What's My Line.
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. Contribute generously to United Cerebral Palsy for research and rehabilitation services for the nation's 600,000 cerebral palsy children and adults. What's My Line? Brought to you by Suppose Stockings, the beautifully sheer fashion stockings famous throughout the world for that wonderful Suppose feeling. And now let's all play What's My Line? And now from New York, let's meet our What's My Line panel. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now a gentleman who is starring in a big musical comedy hit, I Had a Ball, and he sees to it that everybody in the audience has a ball. Exactly that, Mr. Buddy Hackett.
At this time, it would give me great pleasure to introduce the President of the United States, but unfortunately he's not here tonight. But somebody who is very, very nice, a lady who's a syndicated columnist, New York Journal American, who has never abused the freedom of the press, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
On my left, another star of a hit musical, Baker Street, Mr. Martin Gable.
The man I'm about to introduce has many gifts, but above all, he is the Rolls-Royce of moderators, Mr. John Daly.
As I dare say most of you know, Bennett is in Caneel Bay on a brief vacation, and we're lucky indeed to have Martin here in his chair. And, Buddy, it's nice to see you on the panel, and I'm going to write a new musical called I Had a Ball on Baker Street. Thanks. Gee, that's a very good start. We've also got some very interesting occupations brought to the theater by some very nice people. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before my friends on the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger after this message. And now to meet our first contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please?
Pete Sa. Right, sir? Mr. Sa, where are you from?
I'm from Edison, New Jersey.
Edison, New Jersey.
Yes,
nice to have you with us. Mr. Sa, may I present the panel? Now, if you join me over here, we'll let the audience in the theater and the audience at home
know exactly what your line is. All right,
panel, we can tell you that Mr. Saar is self-employed and he deals in a product, and we'll begin the general questioning with Professor Moriarty of Baker Street.
Thank you, John. Mr. Saar, first may I ask the etymology of your name? S.A., I mean...
It's of Portuguese origin.
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Could I use the product that you sell, Mr. Saar?
Yes.
Would it improve my health in any way?
You mean specifically with the basic purpose of improving your health, Martin?
Would, whether in a primary or secondary way, were I to use Mr. Saar's product, would it improve my health?
Well, we would have to agree in a very broad area that if you had, for instance, been without the benefits of this kind of a product, it would be beneficial at the time that you had it, probably.
Thank you, John. I take that to be a polysyllabic yes.
A polysyllabic yes.
Yeah. Well, is it something taken internally, Mr. Saar?
Yes.
Could it be loosely categorized as food?
Yes.
Is it a solid rather than a liquid?
Yes.
Is it something that is taken at mealtime?
Could.
Could?
Could.
Yes. Is it something that is more apt to be eaten in one specific meal of the day than another? That is, would I be more likely to have it, say, this is not a question, I'm just explaining my previous question, for a breakfast rather than dinner?
Thank you very much. That's one down and 9 to go, Miss Fred.
Mr. Saar, is it a product that I could buy at a supermarket?
Yes, you could buy this product at a supermarket.
Is it packaged?
Yes, it is.
Is it a manufactured product?
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I think, again, on the way we use language on the program, we would agree that it's manufactured. Mm-hmm.
Does the product grow?
All by its little self? No.
Well, I think it has to be helped.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Hackett.
If I knew the shape of the product, would it help me to guess what the product was?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good thing to know. Well, I imagine if I knew what counter in the supermarket I went to get this product at, would that help me some?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so.
So this is a product, and if I were to draw a parallel between your name and the product, like pizza, does that mean anything? Like, is it frozen pizza, maybe, that you make?
Well, actually, I'm going to throw all the cards over. You got it right. Wow, boy, you're going to get very rich. Good for you, buddy. You caught us at our little game. We thought we'd have a lot of fun with this. Pete Saar, who makes pizza.
Well, because in my old neighborhood, whatever a guy did, there was a kid, Joe Pork. His father had a pork store, and,
Joe Banana?
no, I didn't know him too good. So I figured Pete Saar, was the guy, what are you going to be when you grow up? He didn't have to decide. He knew already.
Actually, Mr. Pete Saar has a pizza place in New Jersey, right? And what town is it?
It's in Metuchen,
In Metuchen, New Jersey, and it's called What a Place, W-O-T, What a Place.
It's not called Pete Saar's?
It's not called Pete Saar's place.
What a place, pizza.
Pizza, Pete. That's very good, Pete. That's nice going. Sorry we didn't hang them up a little more than we did, but it's certainly nice of you to have come to join us.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And now let's meet our second challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Scott Tutt. Right, sir? Mr. Tutt? Mr. Tutt, where are you from?
I'm from Doylestown, Pennsylvania, but I'm working in New York City.
You're working in New York, but you're from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Fine. Mr. Tutt, may I present the panel? Now, would you join me over here, and we'll let the audiences, both at home and in the theater, know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we will tell you that Mr. Tutt is salaried, and he deals in a product. And we'll begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Well, Mr. Tutt, we'll start with the same thing. Is it a product I might use?
Yes.
Is it a product that's found in the house?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Hackett.
Is it a product that's found in a specific establishment outside of the house?
Yes.
In a specific establishment outside of the house?
Establishment. You
In
know,
other
like
words-
an elephant would be found in a zoo.
In a zoo. That's fine. Well, I think with Mr. Tutt's permission, since the question was so broadly based, we'll give you a broadly based no. That makes 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen. Yes, but I think it would mislead you if I let the affirmative answer stand, because the specific place is true in his particular reference term, but the product generally, we might agree, might be found widely scattered about. Miss Kilgallen.
Is this product too big for me to carry around?
Yes.
I'm not very strong.
At times.
Yeah, I think it would be a proper answer rather than...
Mr. Tutt, does this come in various models?
No. That's 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Gable.
Is this product of use to the average householder?
It could be, yes.
Doylestown has a farm school. Would it be in any sense a farm product that you deal in?
No.
Having a specific relationship to the agrarian and general farm economy, you mean?
You already gave me the no, didn't you?
Yeah, but I just...
We're just discussing it, you mean, yeah.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, Mr. Tutt, is this product now or has it ever been alive?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Hackett.
Did we get, it was a manufactured product?
No, we didn't get that
Is
yet.
this
That's
a
the
manufactured product?
And it is sometimes. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's manufactured, but then sometimes it's natural, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Could be rain. And it's pretty large then.
No, we agreed that it could be, if it could be come, or you could devise to have it come in such form and substance and quantity that you would be considered large, but this isn't necessarily so.
When it's natural, is it mineral? They're both stuck. Good.
Yes.
Yes, mineral. And is that a full yes or a part yes? You don't...
That's a full one.
Full yes. Hey, man, might have something to do with coal. Is this something that comes out of the ground, then?
Comes out of the ground?
Yeah, like coal?
No. That's 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
These places in which the product is loosely scattered about, are they enclosures?
No.
7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Gable.
Is this product something that we haven't asked, is it edible in any way?
I would say there that it probably would be considered it is edible, yes. I wouldn't exactly, make it a main course, but I guess it's edible.
Its primary use is not to be eaten, however. Yes, that is true.
Yes, that is true. Mm-hmm.
Like a horse.
That's right.
Mineral horse?
A mineral... Is this product something that is in general use? I mean, it's not just for eccentric people.
No, I would say it was general use, wouldn't you, Mr. Yes.
Would it be used in one section of the country more than another?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be used in in cold climates rather than warm.
Yes.
And it can be eaten.
Oh, yeah. It could be.
It's
Yeah.
what? Oh, I know.
Dorothy, may we have a conference?
You have 30 seconds for a conference.
What is it?
I'm probably wrong, but I think it could be ice or some form of ice.
In a cold climate? Why would
Well,
they
he
need-
might make ski runs or something.
Does your product have anything to do with ice?
It's not supposed to.
Actually, once again, I think we ought to turn it over because that's a very fine piece of work. It is. That's he makes snow for ski runs. You were very close, sir. Actually, Mr. Tutt is with the Metropolitan Ski Slopes Incorporated, and he makes snow out at Van Cortlandt Park, which for non-New Yorkers is a very interesting place because you can take a subway train in New York City out to Van Cortlandt Park, and you can go skiing on the snow that Mr. Tutt makes at night.
Have you eaten this stuff ever, John?
Snow? Oh, I used to, actually, when I was a boy.
Manufactured snow you eat?
Well, not manufactured. I ate the natural products. See, I went to school up in New Hampshire, Tilton School, and we used to go out and
You're
eat
rough
snow.
up there,
Yes,
I
we
know
get
that.
mad at the teachers. We go out and eat snow, you see. That's all the time. But he does this now. I must say, we ought to explain it. We made Doylestown a point of it because Mr. Tutt graduated from Doylestown High last year. He's now making snow, but he's planning to go on to college. Right?
Right.
And how is the ski season? Is it nearly over?
Yes, we have one more week.
Yeah, one more week. So the New Yorkers can go out and ski for one more week. Fine. I trust you can get all the members of the panel out there, Mr. Tutt, and thanks for coming to see us. Nice to see you. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment. And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery challenger, for which the panel is blindfolded, as you know. Blindfolds in place, panel?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Will you enter mystery challenger and sign in, please? Just a gentle reminder, panel. In this case, we use a different form of questioning, one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise, and we'll begin with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Are you in the world of entertainment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Gable?
I
Are
didn't
you...
say yeah, I said yeah.
What? Are you mostly in the movies?
Not mostly, no.
That's one down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Are you mostly in television?
Mostly, yeah.
Mr. Hackett?
Are you a male?
Mostly, no.
That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you a comedian?
Well, yeah, sometimes.
Mr. Gable.
What was the answer?
Sometimes.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm having a little difficulty, John, but what I have gathered so far is that this is a mostly female, sometime comedian, mostly on television. Is that correct?
Right, sir.
You're mostly right, yeah.
Have you a regular television series on now?
Most of the year, yeah.
Most of the year, yes. Miss Francis.
Are you a dazzling redhead?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
It's Lucy Bull. That's
Yes.
fine.
golly day, this is a wonderful surprise. I'm sure all of you have read in the paper that Miss Lucy is chairman of the Easter Seal campaign this year, and we read that you were in Washington at the White House to open the campaign this year, and I was hoping that you'd be with us tonight.
I had to beg.
You had to beg
Yeah,
that.
there were a lot of stars in town.
Yeah.
Really,
None,
they're standing in line to get on this show.
none shining as brightly as you do, though.
Thank you. I thought you had to be truthful on this show.
You do.
Well, I said I wasn't a redhead.
Did you say mostly yes when I asked you?
No, I said no.
Mostly yes, no. Listen, can I go into the White House visit? I read a funny little piece. I don't know where it was, yesterday or today, that you got into what we call the old hand wrestling matches with the president.
Isn't that awful?
What happened?
Well, I was explaining to President Johnson that when I met President Eisenhower, I was first in line, and in front of 1,500 people, I had to cross this huge ballroom, and I had my speech ready. I had never met Mr. Eisenhower before. So they were telling me what to say. I said, now, you're the spokesman, and Vivian was behind me, and Bill Frawley, and Gussie was behind me, and we were all had our little things that we were going to say, but they said, you're first, so you say, thank you, Mr. President, for asking us here, and we enjoyed it very much. So all the way across, I was trying to not get stepped on with my big dress, and I was saying, thank you, Mr. President. It was very nice asking us here, and we enjoyed it very much. So I put out my hand, and I said, and I was way over there. He kept the line moving that way. And I was showing. That was his way of keeping the line going. You know, he's so used to having 1,700 people to shake hands with. So I showed President Johnson and threw him right out of his office.
Then you had a return engagement, and I understand that time he got you off balance.
Yes, he was showing me then how he did it.
That's wonderful. Well, I must say, I think no American needs to be told about the value and the importance of the Easter Seal campaign. And,
I'd just like to remind them that we have very little time. This isn't something that goes on, you know, with a big crash all year round. We try to wind it up at Easter time, so it's imperative that they give it a lot of thought now and know that about 23 million American children and adults are benefited by it.
And I'm sure all of you will give it a lot of thought and also give a substantial contribution to the Easter Seal campaign.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Well, you've done very well so far tonight, panel. Congratulations are in order. We'll have another contestant after this. Now, a final contestant. Will you enter and sign in, please? Benita Caress. Right? All right, is it Miss or Mrs. Caress?
Miss.
And where are you from, Miss Caress?
Little Neck, Long Island.
Little Neck, Long Island. All right, Miss Caress, may I present the panel? Now, if you'll join me over here, we'll let the audience at home and the audience in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, you have a relatively brief time to go for this one. We will tell you that Miss Caress is salaried, deals in a service, but there is, in a manner of speaking, a product associated, and we'll begin with Buddy Hackett.
I say give her the money. That's a nice-looking lady. And this service, is this, are you a school teacher and is the product education?
No, it
Nope.
isn't.
That's it, I lose.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Gallup.
Could anyone on this panel use your services?
Yes, you could.
Would we see you when we were using them?
Yes, you would.
Would we come to you?
Yes.
Do you work indoors?
Yes.
Do you wear any sort of uniform?
No, I don't.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Gable.
Since I'm in Bennett Cerf's place, I will say the connection between Little Neck and Caress is going to be overlooked by me. However, I am right in thinking that your name has nothing to do with your profession.
That's right.
Is it something that's more useful to women than to men?
No, it isn't.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you instruct in any way, Miss Caress?
Could, yes.
Do you yourself perform in any way? You show how anything goes, nothing.
No, I'm not a demonstration performance. 4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Hackett.
Do you use any sort of objects when you're performing the service? Is it?
Usual, things that you might expect to find in an office. We'll agree those things are used, yes.
It's an office. I didn't know
I gave that away, didn't I? I gave that. Well, actually, I gave too much away. I'm going to throw all the cards over. You got any glimmering of an idea?
Public stenographer.
No.
No?
Nobody?
District attorney?
Issues passports. Passport agent. In the U.S. Passport Office in Rockefeller Center. I'm sorry we didn't have more time, but thank you very much for puzzling them as you did. Nice to have you. And there's another good reason to travel. As Bennett is traveling, he'll be back with us next week after we hope, a very good rest at Caneel Bay. I've used up all the time. With the panel's permission, I will say good night for the whole gang, and thank you for being with us on What's My Line?
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Cotton. This is Johnny Olson speaking, reminding you if you'd like to attend one of our broadcasts, write to What's My Line, CBS Tickets, 485 Madison Avenue, New York, 10022.
Line. Brought to you by Remington Rand, makers of the revolutionary new Remington Rolectric, the only shaver that shaves both the heavy beard and the hidden beard in absolute comfort. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning What's My Line panel. First, the delightful star of stage and television, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now the author, actor who is starring magnificently in his own play Romanoff and Juliet, Mr. Peter Ustinov.
And now, the winner of the Newspaper Women's Award for the Best News Story of the Year in covering the visit of our Queen to America, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
And on my left, our panelist who almost didn't come back from Texas and Louisiana. He was having such a wonderful time, but we're glad he's back, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
To all the people in Texas and New Orleans who asked about Arlene's eye, that patch is coming off Tuesday.
Hooray!
And also, Dorothy is prettier than ever. And here's our panel moderator and newscaster, that master of the limpid, lucid literary style, John Charles Daly.
What Bennett means is I like short sentences. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line. Once again, we have some very nice people who've been kind enough to bring some interesting occupations. In fact, they're so interesting tonight, I'm going to give the panel a nice running start. Put on your blindfolds, please. And we'll also have a famous mystery guest before the panel. A little bit later in the show, we'll meet our first challenger in just 1 minute. It's time to meet our first contestant. Are those blindfolds in place, panel?
Yes.
Good. Will our first contestant come in and sign in, please? Camp of Stranis.
And prana tutor tutor prunus. Yes, that's very good. And now will you come over here and join me? And now, panel, as you know, you're blindfolded because there's an area of identification having to do with costuming, handwriting, or perhaps one of you on the panel may, in our estimation, have some previous acquaintance which would give you too much of a clue, so you're blindfolded. I would ask our guest, are you familiar with our scoring system?
Yes.
In that event, let's let everybody at home and our friends here in the theater know exactly what your line is. Panel, our guest, and I think it's only fair to tell you that it's a dual bill. Our guest is self-employed, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
A dual bill, do you mean there's more than one person?
That's right, yes.
Are they of a variety of sexes?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Sir.
Does the dual bill consist of 2 people?
Yes.
Are the 2 people both females?
Yes.
Do the 2 of you, are you usually associated together in the public mind?
Yes.
Is this because of the fact that you make public appearances together?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Has your name, or have your names appeared recently in the newspapers?
Yes.
Are you in any way associated with any of the lively arts?
No.
Small conference.
There are 7, yes.
Arts but not lively? Somewhat, was that the answer?
Well, actually, the answer would be just yes, Miss Arlene.
Yes. Is there anything entertaining about what you do?
Certainly.
Oh. But you are not performers. Is that what Bennett discovered? Do you appear behind the scenes in some capacity?
Well, yes.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking, I would say that since we have already accepted that there is not a performing before the public, we would have to agree that the relationship to the whole broad area of entertainment has to do with a behind-the-scenes functioning, you see.
Jolly good, John. Do you perhaps write for the theater or television?
No.
That makes it 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Ustinov.
I hope you won't take this amiss, but I'm right in assuming that you're both human beings.
Yes.
Yes. And am I right in assuming that both of you have been answering these questions?
Yes.
Those are 2 distinct voices that I hear.
Yes.
That's the one you thought was the machine.
I thought they were both machines, but I mean... no, I didn't. I was wondering whether... and you work together?
Yes.
Inseparably?
No.
I couldn't hear the last one.
No, that was a no, but I won't give you an official no on that because inseparably suggests that there is a closer relationship overall than exists, but for the purposes of the occupation which we're here working on, I would say that there is a certain degree of inseparability. However, it is not complete.
That's like a statement from a government.
That's the nicest thing that's ever been said to me, Peter. Thank you.
Not really.
Peter, that's one of his clearest statements. More limpid than most.
Well, what have I been left with a no or a yes?
You've got a yes.
Oh, I've got a yes?
You've got a qualified yes, no.
Well, that's not like a government, no. And it's to do with backstage activities of some sort.
Well, not necessarily backstage, behind the scenes, I believe was the phrase. Yeah.
Behind the scenes. Does it have any... am I right in assuming that it has other functions but theatrical or entertainment ones? Could this be pressed into the service of another organization?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is it anything to do with publicity?
No.
4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Now, we have learned that you're connected with a lively art, but we haven't decided which one. Are you something other than painters?
Yes.
Have you something to do with other than the ballet?
Yes.
Other than sculpture?
Yes.
Oh, the arts are going.
Do you have anything to do with music?
No.
5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Have you, either of you, ever worked on a book?
Yes.
Have you possibly collaborated on a book?
Yes.
Is one of you creatures married to me? This is a dirty trick. Phyllis and Edith Young.
That's right. Actually, to take care of the official part of What's My Line, Mrs. Cerf and Mrs. Young are co-authors of a book, The Complete Family Fun Book, which is published by, guess what? Random House. Bennett, I want to tell you, we didn't think we could get away with this, but we thought we'd take a shot at it anyway, and we did pretty well. We got 5 down and 5
John,
to go
I'd like
before
to make
you
a
caught
shameful
on.
confession. The voice I recognized was not Phyllis's, but Edith Young.
Oh, wunderbar. Miss Phyllis, we had fun, and we nearly carved them up into little pieces. Miss Young, nice to have you with us. Thank you. Well, that was good fun, panel, and I must compliment you. We didn't get away with it, but perhaps we can get away with this. Will our next challenger come in and sign in, please? Pat Lockwood, Michael Falcone, Richard Rigsby, and Theodore Kratzky. Is that right? All right, panel, in the interest of saving time, I will tell you that Mrs. Pat Lockwood is from New York City, Michael Falcone is from New York City, Richard Rigsby is from Miami, Florida, and Theodore Kratzky is from Roslyn, Pennsylvania. You all know how we keep score on this program? Yes, we do. Fine, then let's let the people at home and those who've been good enough to come and join us in the theater know exactly what your line is. Panel, I will tell you that our guests are salaried, and we'll begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Yeah, are you going to answer, Mrs. Lockwood, since you're right there?
Yes,
Shall I address the questions
Some of them.
to you?
All right. Yes.
Do you four have anything to do with the entertainment industry at all?
No.
No, not so. That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Ustinov.
Do you do a job which is interlocking in some way, or do you all do the same thing? I mean, now I can't ask a question, can I? I'm right in assuming that you do a job which is accomplished because the 4 of you do it.
Together?
Rather than all doing the same thing.
That's fine. That's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
In other words, they all do the same thing, is that?
They all do the
all
same
do the
thing.
same thing. If you're not in the entertainment field, may I rule out my question that I seem to be hipped on tonight? You are not the 4 ding-dongs or anything that make records.
No.
Yes, they are not the 4 ding-dongs.
Well, you know, do you deal with people rather than animals in your work?
Yes.
Men and women could avail themselves of your services? Are people better off or happier because of what you do?
Yes.
Could I use your service?
Yes.
Could anyone on this panel?
Yes.
Do you think it would be more applicable to one of us than to all of us?
No. 3 down and 3 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mrs. Lockwood, have the 4 of you got anything to do, whatever, with the appliance of justice or the law?
You mean having some relationship to the function?
That's going to be a no, John.
That's right. That's 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you do something that is helpful for the individual?
We, I think, can assume that the identification which they bear collectively and individually is one which, as applied to the norm of human behavior and experience, produces a sense of well-being, betterment, yes.
I've had 2 of those tonight, John. Only one more.
All right, Miss Hathaway, you go right on.
Do you touch the people that you deal with?
Yes.
Sometimes.
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 By that, I presume it is not necessary in your job, then, to touch them, if you say something. It's not necessary. Do you talk to them?
Yes.
Do you advise them in any way or instruct them in any way?
Sometimes, yes.
Do you work for a non-profit making organization?
No.
No. That makes it 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Ustinov.
Would this service be considered a luxury at all?
I would think that every tradition of...
Oh, my goodness.
our times would say it was not a luxury. I would think, even though there might be room for an argument on a technical basis, that we would agree it was very necessary to life. That makes it 6 down and 4 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
One of the gentlemen, whose name escapes me, but the one in the red tie, looks rather strong and athletic. Does that help him in his work?
Yes, I would say it would.
At the same time, Miss Dorothy, I must add that Mr. Kratzky's size and obvious strength is not necessary to the work, because they all do it, and some of us, as you can see, are not as strongly endowed physically as Mr.
Frank
Kratzky.
Sinatra there on the left, doesn't he?
That's Mr. Rigby. I remembered him. All right. Now, you all do the same thing. Do you all do it in the same place?
All do it in the same place?
No.
No. That's 7 down and 3 to go, Mr. Sir.
Does the work that you do require some kind of preliminary training on your parts?
No, no.
None?
8 down and 2 to go, Miss Francis. It's
When
instinctive.
you work, do you work indoors?
Pardon me?
Do you work indoors?
Yes.
Now, I would add here, so that you're not misled, that in the instance of our 4 guests, they work indoors, but this is not absolutely necessary.
Oh, it could be done out of doors. Is there any equipment necessary in your job?
Yes, we could call it equipment, I guess, couldn't we?
Sounds like you carry people out. Do you have anything to do with keeping the peace in any way?
In a very broad sense, you might say yes, but I'm not going to. That's 9 down and 1 to go, Mr. Ustinov.
Oh, John.
I was sure.
Oh, you're
You have a
tough.
conference? Can we have a conference?
Yes, you may have 30
In the
seconds.
broadest
per
sense of the word. A conference.
Maybe they're bouncers.
No, they're not bouncers.
they're
That
not.
would be keeping the peace.
No, they're not.
But could they all be bartenders?
That's keeping the peace if ever there was.
Most must have anything to do with liquor, food, or drink. That would give us a big way.
Yes, that would.
Unless you have a better idea.
I have an idea, but I doubt whether it's the right one, because I'm not really very experienced in this
Oh, yes, you
kind of
Tell us what
executive
it is,
work.
we'll rule on it.
The 30 seconds is done, Mr. Ustinov.
Oh, if I broke any rule, would I have anything to fear from you by a certain stretch of the imagination?
By any stretch of the imagination? Yes. If you broke any rule, would you have anything to fear by any stretch of the imagination?
Yes. Yes! Nothing to do with food and drink, I don't think. And you're nothing to do with the maintenance of... I'm right in assuming that you're nothing to do with the maintenance and law of order, because that has been passed. You got a no on that. Do you work for a ministry? What we'd call a ministry, but I don't mean a parish, I mean...
A ministry of government?
Yes.
That's 10 down and no more to go, and I want you to meet 4 of the nicest professional Santa Clauses you're ever going to meet. Oh, my. Mrs. Lockwood is here in New York with us at Andrew's Variety Store. Mr. Falcone is at Macy's. Mr. Rigsby is in Richards, is it, in Miami, Florida? Right. And Mr. Kratzky is in Strawbridge and Clothier in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, Roslyn area, right?
And thank you for sticking the panel, and will you all go and say good night to them? It's nice to have had you with us. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest. The special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which I have to ask my friends on the panel once again to blindfold themselves. The blindfolds are all in place, panel?
Yes.
Good. Will you come in, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? In the case of our mystery challenger, we go to a different form of questioning. You will ask one question at a time in turn, moving clockwise. And we'll begin it all with Bennett Cerf.
Am I correct in assuming that your name is no stranger to the pages of Variety?
I guess so.
Miss Francis?
Are you associated with the picture business?
Not anymore.
With the permission of our guest, I will amend the answer to this degree, that the association of our guest with pictures, motion pictures, is very definite and would be, I think, firmly so set in your minds. Mr. Ustinov.
There is a connection also with the theater, I presume.
Never.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Is there a connection with television that is more immediate than your connection with the films?
Never television.
There is no direct relationship with television beyond the most fragmentary association which might come out of an appearance once in a long while. Mr. Cerf, that's 2 down and 8 to go.
Have you ever created a character that has become famous either on the pages of a book or possibly in a television show?
Pages of a book?
Yes.
Miss Francis?
I didn't hear the answer.
Yes.
Pages of a book? Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I have to clear up something. You say not anymore, but the dazzling applause that greeted your entrance must have been for your appearance in pictures at one time. Am I correct in that?
Well, I'm not Greta Garbo.
No, but actually, you're right, Arlene. That's what I was trying to say, is that the association with pictures is so pronounced as...
That's all.
If you were to be asked individually, you would say immediately that this is a major area of identification. Mr. Ustinov.
I thought I was going to get a question.
So you get a yes, then. Mm-hmm.
Are you American by birth?
Yes.
Miss Kilgallen?
When you appeared in motion pictures, did you wear long golden curls?
Never, never, never.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
I may be up the wild goose chase, but is the character that you created an amazingly attractive little girl named Eloise?
I can't dance as well as Kay Thompson, nor sing as well.
That makes it 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Francis.
Have you ever been in the top 10 in box office draw?
There's the answer, Arlene.
Uh-huh.
Yes, Mr. Ustinov?
You do? Yes, I'm... goodness.
Let me guess.
Yes, yes.
All right, Arlene, you have...
May I have one guess?
Yeah.
If I were to say to you, you're a steal, would I be right? Is it Miss Joan Crawford?
Yes.
You're just too smart with one eye, girl.
Arlene, Miss Jones said you were just too smart with one eye.
No, it was the voice more than anything else.
Ah. Yes,
Pretty hard to disguise that, Miss
You
Crawford.
did sound like Kay,
That deep
Kay
voice.
Thompson. I wish I had her talent.
You got
For
talent.
Eloise.
You got
You
plenty of
have
talent.
two wonderfully
Oh, I got
talented
4
people.
Eloises. Don't be silly.
That's right, of your own. That's true.
Now, I'm going to be perfectly frank. Actually, Miss Joan Crawford does not appear on television. She hasn't heretofore been on a live television show, and she's here tonight because of something that's very close to her heart. It's called the International Adoption Agency, WAIF, are the initials. And she's here because of her interest in WAIF and because there's going to be a big party for WAIF on Wednesday night, I believe. Is there not in New York?
That's right, John.
And I think, Arlene, you're going, and I believe Dorothy is going to be there, too, on Wednesday
hope
night.
so.
And Jane Russell is the West Coast chairman, is she not? Now, what you have on Wednesday night is a benefit performance of Wild as the Wind.
With Anna Magnani.
And with Anna Magnani. So for those folks who are in this area, if you will let us have a quiet little moment in New York, may I suggest that you all go and support a cause which Miss Crawford feels so strongly about that she breaks a rule and appears live on television to do it. We're very happy about that, and thank you very much for coming to join us.
Miss Crawford, please. May I ask you one question, Miss Crawford? Why did you say you weren't in movies anymore? Well, you're starring in
I'm
a
Mrs.
picture
Steele.
now.
Remember Arlene?
No, actually, what Miss Crawford, she is not making pictures presently, Bennett, which is why I qualified the answer so that you would be aware that there are pictures with Miss Crawford. There's one in New York right now, starting at the Palace. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, but I made that last year.
Oh, I see.
The story of Esther Costello.
You're worse than John Daly.
You didn't even know your own wife. Don't be silly. You're doing
Stay tuned.
And now, Peter Ustinov, it's nice to have had you back with us again. Hope we'll see you soon. And until next week, this is John Daly saying good night, Arlene Francis.
Good night, John. Good night, Peter.
Good night, Don.
Good night, Peter. Good night, Bennett.
I'm going to have a few words to say to one of the co-authors of the Family Fun book in a few minutes. Good night, John.
Imagine a man not knowing his own wife. Now, I asked you about that. Didn't that startle you? I do have one brief word from Uncle Sam, actually his postman. It's all put down very succinctly. Wrap securely, address plainly, include zone number, and separate your local from your out-of-town mail. And who can read straight anyway? So thanks very much for being with us on What's My Line?
If you'd like to be a contestant, send a picture we can keep and your occupation to What's My Line? CBS Television, 485 Madison Avenue, New York, 22, New York. Transportation for contestants on What's My Line is arranged by American Airlines. What's My Line is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production in association with the CBS Television Network. Be sure to see Remington Rand's 2 other great television shows, Leave It to Beaver on Friday nights and Gunsmoke on Saturday nights, all on CBS. Tomorrow night it's...
What's My Line? Brought to you by Kellogg's, the folks who bring the best to you each morning. A wide choice of cereals in the forms you like best. Yours from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line?
And now let's meet our award-winning panel of What's My Line. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And now, I don't very often have a message for Las Vegas, but I have tonight. It's get ready. Because Wednesday night at the Sands Hotel, the gentleman who is going to be occupying this chair tonight is going to open as the star of the show, Joey Bishop.
Thank you, Doctor. And to my left, a young lady who, in addition to all her other duties, is pinch hitting for Bill Cullen on The Price is Right, starting tomorrow, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now a gentleman hot from
Austin and Fort Worth and Dallas and absolutely exhausted from that southern hospitality, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
That's the most elaborate moo-moo I ever saw. And here's our superb newsman and panel moderator and bridegroom, John Charles Daly.
And there I was, fast asleep at the bus stop, and the bus went by. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And although it isn't the first of the year, it's near the first of the year, and we thought we should do something tonight that the panel would always remember. So put your blindfolds on, panel. Thank you very much. This signifies, of course, that we've got some rather strange and inordinate tricks to play on the panel tonight, and we do. We have some very nice people with some very interesting occupations. We'll also have a famous mystery challenger before the panel a little bit later in the show, and we'll meet our first challenger after this word. All right, panel, the blindfolds are all properly in place, are they?
Yep.
Good, then it's time to meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? All right, may I ask if you're familiar with the way we keep score on this program?
Definitely.
You're right. Then we'll let the audience at home and those who've been good enough to join us here in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, needless to say, there is something about our first challenger which suggested to us the need for the blindfolds. It's some element, perhaps, of dress or appearance or character, of anything that you can think of that might have given you too much of a clue, so we've asked you to blindfold yourselves. We will, however, tell you that our first challenger is salaried and deals in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Do you believe that all of us, rather than just one of us, would recognize what you do from something about you?
Probably so.
Probably so?
That's
yes,
right.
I would say this, with your permission, that there is something that would suggest to all of you at least the general area of identification which incorporates the line of our guest.
All right, John, I won't ask you to repeat that. Do you, in your work, wear any sort of dress that is other than the usual business suit?
Usually we do.
I can't hear.
I can't hear him.
Usually so.
You usually do. Is it termed a uniform?
I'd say yes.
Is it any uniform belonging to any armed force anywhere?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Bishop.
Are you at present wearing that particular uniform?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Francis.
Does your service have anything to do with the entertainment world?
I'd say yes.
In a very general way, that would be true.
Do you have anything to do with the world of music?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Does the work that you do require physical dexterity of any sort?
Some people would say yes. I believe so.
Do you ever do any of your work on ice skates?
No, not this year, not this year. Next year, maybe, not this year.
I might say it's tough enough as it is without the ice skates. That's 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Well, would you say that your work was in the field of athletics or sports?
I'd say so.
Are you a member of a team?
Yes.
Is there more than one person out there?
Maybe he just built like that.
No, only one.
No, 5 down and 5 to go, Mr. Bishop.
Did you recently play in a bowl game?
No.
6 down and 4 to go, Miss Francis.
Oh, would, that rules out basketball then, doesn't it?
No, football.
Football, dear. Football. Well, it's a ball. Oh, I thought you said a bowl game. I beg your pardon, Joey. Well, is it a sport that is played at the present time?
Yes.
Is it played indoors?
Yes.
Is it basketball?
Yes.
Oh, that tall son of a-
you're that with the
tall guy.
with
Just say
the
the tall-
Globetrotters? Wilt the Still?
On a technicality, Wilt is not with the Globetrotters. We flip all the rest of the cards over.
I did. I said, are you with the
Arlene said.
Globetrotters? Then you
Wilt
said
the, you said Wilt the Still.
It was my home team.
Philadelphia.
Well, Philadelphia. Very
Philadelphia
good. Bennett.
Warriors.
The Philadelphia Warriors. What'd say? Mr. Bishop?
No, I said Philadelphia Warriors, John. You can't just sit here like a nut and expect to get paid.
Well, how tall are you?
Well, exactly 7 feet and 1/16 of an inch.
You
7 feet, 1/6 and a 16th of an inch.
That's right.
7'1".
He barely fits behind that desk. Do you have to have all special furniture at home, Wilt?
I have none right now.
Sorry to hear that.
What do you do, well, when you have to take an upper berth? So do you ever try to get into an upper berth?
We usually try to fly, so we, stay off the ground, really.
Dorothy?
I was just going to say that if they ever did decide to move basketball into a bowl, I'm sure that Wilt wouldn't have any trouble at all covering the ground.
Not a bit. Not a bit. I think you could just lie down on the goal line and reach up and flip it into the basket. How many field goals have you scored? Over 1,000, haven't you?
Well, this year, pretty close to 1,000.
Pretty close to 1,000. Well, when I played basketball, it's pretty close to 10, I think, that year, but I'm not sure. Well, it's awfully nice to have you with us, and I know that actually basketball is now one of the most popular sports in the country. What about the records? What about rebounds? How many of those?
Rebounds? Well, last year I had pretty close to 2,000 rebounds.
2,000 rebounds.
That's right.
And that's without any other men on the team, don't forget. Just Wilt and Eddie Gottlieb, the guy who runs the team.
And now, just in case Wilt gets too big for his britches, as we used to say, Britain, they played the Knickerbockers today and lost by 1 point, right?
I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
Thank you, Wilt. It's been nice to have you with us and watch my life. Let's see what we can do with the second challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Thank you.
The girl plays for the Knickerbockers.
Emily V. Mac. A boy. Is that right? Is it Miss or Mrs. McAvoy? Mrs. McAvoy. And where are you from, Mrs. McAvoy?
Lip Brothers.
Lip Brothers? Where do you live, though? What town do you live in?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Oh, good. We just had a Philadelphia Warrior, and now we have a McAvoy. That's very good.
Scotch-Irish.
Would you say Scotch-Irish? I am, too. Would you say hello to the panel?
Well,
Hey, would you come over with me? You know how we keep score, Mrs. McAvoy?
Yes, sir.
All right.
2 makes 4.
2 and 2 makes 4. Well, sometimes. Are you comfortable?
Very.
All right. Then we'll let the audience in the theater and the folks at home know exactly what your line is. All right? All right, panel, we can tell you that Mrs. McAvoy is salaried and deals in a service. And we'll begin the general questioning with Bennett Cerf.
Mrs. McAvoy, is it Mrs. McAvoy?
Mrs. McAvoy. Mm-hmm.
Did I hear you say you worked for Lit Brothers when you came in? That's a department store on Market Street in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Do you work in the store?
Yes.
Does the work that you do bring you into contact with the customers of that store?
Yes.
Are you on the floor in one of the departments of that store?
Like Bennett.
I couldn't get that.
Mr. Cerf wanted to know if you were on the floor in one of the departments of that store.
All over.
All over the store. So I think we would rule there that Mrs. McAvoy can be on the floor in one of the departments of the store.
Mrs. McAvoy, a lady with a kind face like yours wouldn't be a store detective, would she?
Well, I must say this, Mrs. McAvoy. You were very generous because you did say that you were with the department store. And I'm sure this gave much more of a clue than they should have ever have gotten any other way.
She must have once pinched Bennett.
Oh. Yes, Joey.
That doesn't say too much for Bennett to be able to recognize a detective that quickly, does it?
Well, Joey, I would say that you've got a very legitimate point there because Mrs. McAvoy has been with the store for 64 years, and even today, she apprehends annually about 200 shoplifters and other miscreants. Now, I'm not suggesting that Bennett, you know, has necessarily been involved in this web of crime, but what'd you say, Bennett?
I'd like to ask Mrs. McAvoy, who was the most daring shoplifter you ever found at Lit Brothers?
Bennett, sir. I'm sorry, Bennett. Mr. Cerf wanted to know who was the most daring shoplifter that you ever discovered.
Well, they were all daring.
That's right. All you crooks are alike, Bennett.
They're all daring. You don't know which is which until you put your hands on it.
Well, which one was the most imaginative? Did you ever see one try to take a piano out of the store, for instance, or something like that?
No.
No, sir. What was the biggest thing that you ever saw somebody try to take?
A diamond ring. She took, a colored woman, she took it and she swallowed it and put a phony diamond in the tray. We locked her up.
And we know the rest.
No, I mean big, the biggest object, the biggest thing. Anybody ever try to steal a piano?
No, trunks.
Trunks. Somebody tried to take a trunk?
Yeah, steamer trunk.
A steamer trunk? Was that Bennett's?
Yeah.
Was Bennett? Mrs. McAvoy, may I say that the panel shares this feeling with me. It's wonderful to find somebody as active as you are after all these wonderful and fruitful years. And one thing I can tell just from looking at your face and your eyes, you still enjoy life and have a wonderful sense of humor. It's nice to have had you with us on What's My Line. Thank you very much for coming.
She hopes that she'll be as happy as I am when she reaches my age.
I think, Joey, we, considering what the two of us have said in the last few minutes, that we ought to announce Bennett's never been to Philadelphia.
The moral of that story is if you want to keep looking young, go around pinching people.
We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment. But first, this word from our sponsor. And now the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery celebrity, for which our panel so engagingly and happily puts on the blindfolds once again. Are the blindfolds all in place, panel?
Yes. Back on.
Who's coming in now? The woman who stole the diamond?
No, we will now see our mystery celebrity. Will you enter and sign in, please? Panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery guest, we go to a different form of questioning. You ask one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise, And we'll begin it with Arlene Francis.
Are you engaged in the world of entertainment?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sir?
Are you appearing now or about to appear in a show on or near Broadway?
No, sir.
1 down and 9 to go. Miss Kilgallen?
Are you very well known for your recordings?
No, ma'am.
2 down and 8 to go. Mr. Bishop?
Are you in a movie that is currently playing on Broadway?
I beg your pardon?
Pardon me?
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, you want to go out in the hall and discuss this?
No, sir. I don't have to be excused. I just beg your pardon.
Are you in a motion picture that is currently playing on Broadway?
No, sir.
That's 3 down and 7 to go. Miss Francis?
In the entertainment? Have you been in television?
Sometimes, ma'am.
Mr. Sir?
Are you related or a close friend of anybody connected with What's My Line?
Oh, no, sir. I wouldn't think of that.
4 down and 6 to go. Now, this is not to rule out the possibility that some or all members of the production staff, the panel, are friends, but you do a very specific and close relationship.
That's right.
It's 4 down and 6
I'm
to go.
not your wife.
Sound awfully nice, though.
Miss Kilgallen?
Well, are you a performer of any kind?
I hope so, ma'am.
Mr. Bishop?
I do, too.
Are you a glamour girl?
I hope so, sir.
You said you are not at this time appearing in a picture on Broadway. Have you in the past appeared in pictures on Broadway or around the country?
1 or 2, ma'am.
Let me say that that is as fine a piece of understatement as the British ever manufactured, Mr. Sir.
Have you got any connection whatever with a famous soft drink?
Yes, sir.
Are you Miss Joan Crawford?
Yes.
My daughters are out there for a time.
Oh, fine.
Your sister.
Your daughters are here?
I told you that I was leaving for a week, and how did you guess it?
Because I wondered why you made that so specific.
Because I just came back from Philadelphia today.
Everybody's been to Philadelphia tonight. Have you noticed that?
Except me, John, and I'm from Philadelphia.
Well, you know what they're all down there for, Joey?
No.
Studying law. That's where the Philadelphia lawyer comes from, you know.
That's right.
Yes.
If you think you're going to make me a party to that joke, you're making a big mistake, John.
I hereby dissolve and forever declare void any association that the Philadelphia Mr. Bishop had to do with the Philadelphia lawyer joke, period, end item. There's one about vacations, no, prizes. No, we don't want to get into that, do we?
Don't
Please,
do that.
John.
Don't do it,
2
John.
weeks in Philadelphia.
I think it's only fair that we
Don't.
should mention the drink. We talked about it, Joan. What is it?
Pepsi-Cola?
Pepsi-Cola, isn't it?
Yeah.
John,
more
please
important,
don't.
the thing we thought that would tip it off was that Miss Joan is going to be on the Zane Grey Theater this coming Thursday, which is where you've all read her name, in a program which is entitled?
What?
On the
And
Zane
One
Grey
Must
Theater.
Die.
And One Must Die. That's
No,
right,
I
on
read
Zane
her
Grey
name
Theater on
just
Thursday
recently.
night.
You're doing some big charitable affair, are you not, Joan?
Yes, a couple,
Yes.
Arlene.
Yes.
Well, I got a nice surprise. Miss Joan just told me her daughters are here and backstage. Would you all like to
She's
meet
a
them?
doll.
Bring them both in
no,
here.
my twin.
2 of them. Come in.
Cynthia?
Cynthia, how are you?
Kathy.
Kathy? May I have the honor of presenting to this large group Cynthia and Kathy. And may we say that you have really brightened our show up tonight. And how nice to have you here. Christmas holiday?
Yes, it is.
Got to go back to work soon.
Tomorrow.
Oh, no. Well, thanks so much for
Mr.
brightening
Daly.
our Christmas and New Year's.
I just want to say God bless you. When you get a date, you always think of Bennett and myself.
Kathy, same to you. Good night. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you. Right. Happy New Year. Well, you've done, I must say, very well indeed tonight, panel. And we'll have another contestant after this word from our alternate sponsor. And now let's meet our final challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Right there. Sasha Burnland, is that right? Where are you from, Mr. Burnland?
From New York City.
Panel, Mr. Burnland, and Mr. Burnland is from New York City. Will you join me over here? We're a little bit short of time. You know how we keep score?
Yes.
All right, we'll tell the audience here and the folks at home exactly what your line is. All right, panel. Mr. Burnland is self-employed. He deals in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Mr. Bishop.
Would both members of both sexes come to you for your services?
I hope so, yes.
Would the one come perhaps more than the other?
No.
Not necessarily. 1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
Are they human beings?
Yes, at times, yes.
Do they feel better after they've had your services?
I hope so, yes.
Do you in any way touch them?
No.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Berlin, when they come to you, are they confronted with a special problem?
Yes, usually.
Is it a problem that affects their well-being rather than their health?
Yes, if well-being encompasses all those areas about which we would have deep interest except health.
That excludes dental work or ocular services or things of that sort. Is it something that might affect their minds?
Yes. There are those who say it does, but I don't think it necessarily applies, although we'll give you a qualified yes.
Do you need special training for the work that you do, Mr.
Yes.
Berlin? Do you have to get a degree of some sort to do the work that you do?
But it's not necessary.
Not necessary. 3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are any of these people sent to you as opposed to coming to you voluntarily?
No. I would say they come voluntarily.
So I'm afraid we've run out of time, which is too bad because this would be real fun. You may now meet the gentleman who has written the theme, the opening theme for What's My Line. He writes TV commercial jingles. More than that, because this actually is something we know more about, I think that the public would know Mr. Berlin even better because he also wrote The Nutty Squirrels.
Oh, yes,
Isn't that wonderful?
heavens.
I wish we'd had more time, Mr. Berlin, because I think we could have stuck the panel. So I flipped all the cards over, but thank you very much for being a guest on What's My Line. Nice to have you with
very
us.
much at home with Mr. Daly.
Oh, yes.
Go over and see the squirrel now. Thank you. And now, very quickly, may I say, nice to be back with you all. Nice to see you, Joey, and good night, Miss Kilgallen.
Good night, John. Good night, Joey.
Thank you, Dorothy. Good night, Arlene.
Good night, dear. Happy Caribbean. Good night.
Glad you're back, Dorothy. Night,
Thank
John.
Good night, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on What's My Line?
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman.
What's bringing up Buddy tomorrow on most of these stations?
What's My Line? Brought to you by Kellogg's. Kellogg's Cereals. The best to you each morning from Kellogg's of Battle Creek. Now let's all play What's My Line? And now, live from New York, let's meet our What's My Line panel. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
fine actor who has just returned from Greece where he finished a picture called Not on Your Life, Mr. Tony Randall.
If you people here in the audience and you New Yorkers watching saw traffic tied up in the streets of New York this week by the shooting of a motion picture and you couldn't get close enough to find out what was happening, it was probably the lady I'm about to introduce who this week began to shoot on the streets of New York a movie with Doris Day, Arlene Francis.
Thank you, Terry. The crowd was there because they were looking for Doris Day. Now, there are those people that write in and say we have too much to say about the people we introduce. I would like to make a statement now that it would be impossible for me to say enough about the man I'm about to introduce, Bennett Cerf.
And here is our eloquent and frequently understandable panel moderator, John Charles Daly.
It would also be very difficult for me to find sufficient time to say enough about Bennett. Period. Mr. Randall, nice to have you with us on the panel. We have some very interesting occupations tonight, and nice folks who brought them to the theater, and I think you're all going to have some fun. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before my friends on the panel a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after... And now to meet our first challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? And Elliot with 2 T's. How are you? Now, is it Miss or Mrs. Elliot? Mrs. And Mrs. Elliot, where are you from?
New Orleans, Louisiana.
New Orleans, Louisiana. Nice to have you with us. A town of very many great reputations, not the least of which is its wonderful food, some of which I've had a little trouble hanging on to. May I present our panel, Mrs. Elliot?
How do you do?
Now, would you join me over here, please? Are you familiar with our scorekeeping system?
Yes, please.
In that event, we'll let the audience in the theater and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right, panel, we can tell you that Mrs. Elliot is salaried and deals in a service, and you look so anticipatory that we're going to begin the general questioning with Tony Randall.
My looks were entirely the product of my relationship, such as it is, to Mrs. Elliot.
Surprise, thank you.
What is it?
Well, I was so amused by her face when the audience began to laugh at whatever her line is. Mrs. Elliot, you seemed to blush.
I did.
Did you?
Yes, I did. First, yes.
Would you describe your line as being unusual for a young lady like yourself?
Yes.
Is it an amusing business?
No. Well,
My
it
first
can
no.
be.
Yes, I was going to say, Tony, taking that word in its broadest connotations and encompassing the whole area of possible amusement of the public in mass or singly, we would have to say qualifiedly, yes, it could be considered amusing, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is a service? One that all of us on the panel here might profit by?
Well, I think under certain circumstances, you certainly could profit, yes.
Is there any special training required for your line?
Yes.
Would you describe your work as more physical than mental?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Francis.
You say that it requires a certain kind of training. Would this be a training other than a college diploma?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Do you wear something other than what you're wearing now in your job?
Not necessarily.
In other words, street clothes, normal street clothes, what you had reference to, right?
Yes.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Sir.
Mrs. Elliot, you're salaried. Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Yes, that's for sure.
That's very distinctly shown. Have you anything to do with those noted products of New Orleans, either food or drink?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mrs. Elliott, do people watch you when you work? No.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Randall.
Do you work in New Orleans, Mrs. Elliott?
In the environs, I think we would have to say. It would be unfair to say no, but let us say that Mrs. Elliott works in New Orleans just as we would consider someone who worked in neighboring Long Island or Bronx or Brooklyn as working in New York.
Do you work indoors?
Yes.
More indoors. Do you also work outdoors?
No, indoors.
That makes it 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis.
Do you work in what we might call a large building where there is industry going on?
No, I'd say a lot of people are industriously up to one thing or another, but I don't think we can call it a building in which industry is going on. 6 down and 4 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mrs. Elliott, can we dismiss the retailing business of every sort from your occupation? You're not in anything connected with the retail business. You're not either connected with the manufacture of anything that might be retail later.
No.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you involved in anything that applies to either publicity or advertising?
No.
No. 7 down and 3 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
A very tough girl to pin down.
Yeah.
Mrs. Elliott, do you talk at all in your work?
Yes.
Is that quite a large part of your work?
Yes.
So you talk to people who don't see you, is that it?
Yes.
Do you talk over a microphone?
Yes.
Do you talk over the radio?
No.
Television?
No.
You got no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting so
Done, Dorothy. You snuck one in on me. That's 8 down and 2 to go, Mr. Red.
Are you involved in the general field of communications?
Well, we certainly would agree that Mrs. Elliott hopes to and does very effectively, I'm sure, communicate with people when she's at her particular occupation.
When you talk to people, is it on the telephone?
Well, here we're having a little difficulty because what I'm going to, as a matter of fact, state the premise here. Dorothy did ask about radio and television, which tended to debar what we would consider normal forms of transmission of voice without line circuit. Now, we will say that Mrs. Elliott does talk over line circuit and therefore, in a sense, on telephone, but into a microphone, as has been elicited.
Oh, I know what it is.
You wanted 25 seconds?
Let's have a country.
All right.
Find out if she works at the airport.
That television tower. That's
She
what I
may
was
have
thinking
something to do with the
airport tower. Yeah. No, that's not it. No.
Have you any other ideas?
All right, Tony.
I was thinking of planes coming in and going out.
Is that what you're going to ask?
Or traffic.
Well, I was thinking of the person who gives information in an air terminal, that sort of thing. No.
No.
Is that what you had in mind?
That's what I had in mind.
That's fine. That's 9 down and 1 to go, Miss Francis.
Is there anything advisory about your work?
Well, I wouldn't say it was advisory. There's a certain climacteric that Mrs. Elliott lends herself to.
Well, would that mean... I'm through?
It would be giving information, but I don't think...
That's what I really meant.
Well,
giving
all right, then you
information.
can have another question, Arlene, because I'm sure you're right on the track.
Do you... Would it matter to you how the weather was in your job?
Would it make any difference to Mrs. Elliott how the weather was in her job? You wouldn't care what the weather was like.
Wouldn't she care for the people that she was giving the information to?
Oh, she'd feel sorry for them.
Oh, you're mean. She's a train caller. What does she do?
You're awfully close. What? A racetrack announcer.
Oh!
Mrs. Elliott is the racetrack announcer at the Jefferson Downs Racetrack in New Orleans, which is just outside
What
of
do
New
you
Orleans.
announce? The winners and...
Who knows?
Calls the race.
I'm the one that says they're in the gate, the flag is up, and they're off.
And coming around the 8th pole, exit 4 feet, in front of me, to
You're pretty good.
David won. Thank you. Well, this
It's the
is
first time I ever heard of a filly calling a race.
Oh, on that.
My name is Minya.
All right, let's see what we can do with our second challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please?
now we've got a jockey.
Henry? Macko, is that right?
Right.
Henry, nice to see you. Mr. Macko, where are you from?
Ottawa, Canada.
Ottawa, Canada. How nice it is to have somebody from our neighbors come down and see us. May I present our panel, Mr. Macko?
You do, Mr. Macko.
And will you join me over here, please, Henry? Are you familiar with our scorekeeping system?
Yes.
In that event, we'll let the audience in the theater and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, Mr. Macko is salaried, deals in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Mr. Macko, are you in any way connected with the performing arts?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Randall.
Was it established that Mr. Macko is salaried or self-employed?
Salaried and deals in a service.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
Yes. Look out.
You seemed resentful of that fact. I was wondering what to ask. Let me see. Do you, consider your job mental rather than physical?
Yes.
Is writing involved in your job?
Yes.
He could ask if a college degree was necessary to what he does.
Is writing the integral part of your job?
Repeat that, please.
Is writing the principal part of your job?
Yeah, guess so.
You're beginning to smile with your yeses now. Is the writing you do published?
Yes.
Is it informational rather than amusing?
Both.
But he certainly has, as a basic intent, information.
You write or publish some sort of fact sheet or newspaper column or that type of unusual activity for a man of your years?
Yes, sir.
I don't know where to proceed from there. You are a columnist?
Right. He is a columnist. Now, what kind of a column?
Out of the blue, I had an idea that it might be either sports or
Science fiction?
No. I think either sports or
finance.
I was thinking of space and that sort of thing. Am I anyway?
Space? You mean in terms of the present space activities of the USSR and the United States?
My experience has been that whenever you seek to clarify a question, the answer must be no.
That's right. 2 down and 8 to go. Ready? What kind of a column?
We're going to rule out science fiction then from Mr. Macko, right? He writes a column, it's not on sports, it's not on space or science fiction. If he writes a gossip column, he started much too young. Can't be that. Does he write this for a newspaper?
Yes.
A school newspaper?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Sir. You're getting good again,
Mr. Macko, Ottawa is notably bilingual, and French is spoken as much as English. Do you write your column in English?
Yes.
Does the column give information to people?
Yes.
Is it information that will benefit them in either their health or their pocketbook?
No.
No, not specific. 4 down and 6 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Mr. Macko, do you give advice to the lovelorn?
No.
Well, you must admit it's a ripping idea.
5 down and 5 to go. I'm going to give you 1 30-second period.
Is your column one of advice of any sort?
Yes.
Could we have a conference to discuss what he gives advice on?
How to be president. He's young enough.
Not health. It has nothing to do with money.
Does it have something to do with people of your own age?
No.
Well, it could in a
It's
very
our
relative,
music,
in a
jazz.
relative sense. I'm going to throw all the cards over because I don't think you'd ever get it if you guessed all night. Actually, Henry writes a column of advice to parents. And I'm sure he will not mind if I announce that he is 12 years old. This column was his idea, and if I have this correctly, it started with one paper in Canada, and now you have 35 newspapers in Canada and the United States that take his column entitled Ask Henry, and he has a book that has just been published under that same title.
Wonderful. May I ask
How old is Henry?
Henry, may I
12
ask you a
years old.
question, Henry?
Sure.
Do you think that children today in Canada and the United States are kind enough to their parents?
Yes, I think so.
Do you think they're giving them a square deal?
Oh, parents are okay. The kids will be okay, too.
Well, that answers Bennett. Well, Henry, may I say thank you for being our guest. It's very nice to have had you down here, and very nice particularly to have had you on What's My Line. So good night. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment, but first, here is a word from our sponsor. Now, the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery challenger, for which my friends, as you all know, are always blindfolded. Those blindfolds in place, panel?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Good. Will you enter mystery challenger and sign in, please? All right, panel. As you know, a different form of questioning in this instance, one question at a time, moving clockwise, and we'll begin with Bennett Cerf.
Last time we had our masks on in this show, somebody popped up in the audience. I hope it isn't going to happen again tonight. There are some very big hit shows coming into town in the next few days. Are you connected with any show that is about to open in New York?
No, senor.
1 down and 9 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Does Matilda mean a great deal to you?
Matilda?
Is that any clue to you?
No, senora.
2 down and 8 to go, Mr. Randall.
Yeah, Henry Belafonte.
Yes. The Metropolitan Opera opens in the next week. Is that any clue to you?
No, senor.
3 down and 7 to go, Miss Francis.
Well, is Senora about to open in a new picture soon in New York?
Si, senora.
Hello.
Mr. Cerf?
Is the picture one that has no music in it? I mean, no songs. Of course, it has background music, but rather a straight movie rather than a musical one.
Si, straight, senor.
Miss Kilgallen?
Are you Shirley MacLaine?
No, senora.
4 down and 6 to go, Mr. Randall.
Is your picture about a prize fighter?
Could be, senor.
I would think probably no would be the right answer. 5 down and 5 to go, Miss Francis.
That's a no. The answer is
You're
no.
thinking Julie Harris.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it, was the picture made in America rather than Europe?
No runaway production, senora.
In
I think I've got it.
In America. Mr. Cerf?
Well, I deferred to Tony if he thinks he has it, because I have not.
I have not either. I
Well, you pass, Bennett, and
I'll
Dorothy,
pass,
you
yes.
pass.
I
All right,
pass.
Mr. Randall.
This is just a wild guess, but I think it's Joan Crawford. Runaway production. Well, you said runaway production.
What'd you say, Tony?
When she said no runaway production, She is celebrated for having made that stand. And congratulations, although I'm involved in 2 runaway productions.
30 days of shooting, too. We
30
made it in 30 days.
And the picture is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which has many, many reasons for being anticipated with great glee. One of them sitting right here beside me, the other because 2 very fine, talented artists, Miss Betty Davis and our guest, are in it together.
I thought Dorothy would get it when about the prize fighting bit. She had anticipated a big fight between Betty and me.
Oh, she was thinking of Requiem for a Heavyweight.
I wouldn't pass the physical for that one. Requiem, I mean.
When is it going to be released?
We're having a preview next Thursday night, and I think it'll open a week following that.
Well, everybody's waiting for that
Yes.
picture, Joan.
And so many remarkable abilities, if I may, at the risk of embarrassing you, which I hope I won't do. An author, whose book Joan is now in the market, and also a member of the board of the Pepsi-Cola Company. A woman of very many remarkable achievements, also a wonderful human being. Thank you very much for coming.
And one of the
to see us.
loveliest hostesses in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do I get one?
Well, all in all, things have been a little bit tough on you tonight, panel, but I'll give you A for effort anyway, and we'll be back after this word from our alternate sponsor. And good night, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Good night, John. Good night, Tony. Come again soon.
I will indeed. Good night, Arlene.
Good night, dear Tony.
Aren't you going to do a picture soon?
Yes, a runaway production.
Where?
Where are you going to do that?
Paris, France.
What's the picture?
It's called The Impatient Husband.
That won't be you.
Yes, it
You're
is.
the soul of patience. Everybody knows that.
Well, we'll be impatient to see it.
Thank you.
Good night, Bennett, dear.
For the benefit of people who don't know what a runaway production means, there are a lot of people complaining in Hollywood now that so many big pictures are being made abroad and in other places in the United States that the workers in Hollywood are suffering as a result, and they're trying to make the producers bring the pictures back home and make them on our native soil. And I hope you're not a runaway, John. I say good night to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bennett. I'm not a runaway. I'm not going to run away. The battle gets hot and stiff every Sunday night here with Bennett, but I'm going to stick around and put my oar in if I possibly can. Tony, it's wonderful once again to have had you with us on the panel. Hope to see you back again soon. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us on What's My Line?
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Cotton. This is Johnny Olson speaking. Brought to you by Crest. Crest, the toothpaste that's been clinically tested against cavities. The toothpaste for families that want fewer cavities. And now let's all play What's My Line? Let's meet our What's My Line panel. First, the popular columnist whose voice of Broadway appears in papers coast to coast, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
And on my left, one of the great comedians of the world, Victor Borge.
And to my left, the most charming and versatile young lady, Miss Arlene Francis.
And now a gentleman who was presented today with the Humanitarian Award by the New York Philanthropic League. There is not a better humanitarian in all of the United States, and we love him dearly, Mr. Bennett Cerf.
Here is a gentleman who proposes to go out of the year 1964 precisely the way he came into it, talking. Our lovable, cherubic panel moderator, John Charles Davis.
Well, good evening, panel. Victor, it's very nice to see you there, particularly so since Mrs. Daly and I, my daughter, enjoyed an evening with Victor Borger and had a wonderful time. Bless you. Great.
Here, here.
I must say, Bennett's had a busy day. I saw him earlier this evening at the Damon Runyon Fund, where we had a reception to announce that the picture Lord Jim next February will be sponsored by the Runyon Fund and a benefit. And Bennett told me about the luncheon. He received a plaque from the Philanthropic League. And I said, and how did you receive it? He said, oh, I received it very well. I said it was nice to have this plaque because I had another one, and I've got a house in Mount Kisco and a house in New York, and I always wanted to have a plaque on both my houses.
On with the show.
On with the show. We will have a famous mystery guest before. Yes?
May I say something that disturbs me very much? I hear that Bennett Cerf got the plaque today, but there must be a mistake because it had my name on it. I also got one.
You got one, too. Yes. All right, well, everybody got plaque today, yeah.
Did you get the right name on yours?
I didn't. I think mine said Shelley Winter.
Well, now on with the show. We'll also have a famous mystery guest before our panel a little bit later in the program, and we'll meet our first challenger after this message. And now to meet our first challenger, will you enter and sign in, please? Philippe? De Lafayette. And would you tell us where you're from, sir? Paris. From Paris. Well, I think it should be revealed that this is indeed the Count Philippe de Lafayette, and a direct descendant of the Lafayette who meant so much in the early years of the struggle for American freedom. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and may I present our panel, sir. And now would you join me here, sir? And we'll let the audience in the theater and the audience at home know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, we can tell you that Count Philippe de Lafayette is salaried and deals in a product. And we'll begin the general questioning with Dorothy Kilgallen.
Sir, could I use your product?
Please repeat the question.
Could I use your product, do you believe?
Could Miss Kilgallen use your product?
I hope so.
Would I have it in my home?
I just don't know.
I think we would assume yes.
Would it ever come in contact with my body?
Oh, yes.
Is it liquid rather than solid?
Yes.
Would it ever be taken internally as opposed to putting it behind your earlobes?
Would it ever be taken internally as opposed to putting it behind your earlobes?
You know those French, they're very big at things you put behind your earlobes.
Consume it internally rather than put it behind?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
In other words, monsieur, it is not perfume.
No, yes, it is not perfume, no.
Is it anything that I might have at a party?
Yes.
Would it be in the wine family?
Yes.
Are you a wine grower or maker?
No. No. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Borger.
Do you have as much problem understand English as I have?
that you both do magnificently.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in this country when your gallant family distinguished themselves. That was before my time. But you deliver things for parties, I understand.
Yes.
Now, being a Frenchman, that might be a little... it is not... it is liquid. That is established.
Yes.
Some of it or all of it? All of it. Has it something to do with food, something you eat or drink?
Yes.
Well, then it's easy. It could be something in cans.
In cans?
Yes.
No. 2 down and 8 to go, Miss
Asparagus.
Francis. Asparagus?
What, have you never seen liquid asparagus? I drank them every morning.
I think, Monsieur de Lafayette,
she speaks French.
we have discovered that it is a wine
Oui, oui.
that you have to do with.
Yes.
Oui, oui. Oui, oui wine. And that you do not grow the grapes.
And it doesn't come in cans.
I forget what the rest of Dorothy's question was.
He is neither a
grower,
nor
bottler.
a maker of wine.
Nor a maker of wine.
The little old winemaker?
Do you represent wine?
Yes.
Well, you're not a vintner. Well, I don't know what that is.
That's the one.
If vintner comes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a bad night.
Are you an exporter of wine?
No. Oh, 3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Cerf.
But, Monsieur Leconte, you represent some wine-growing company, possibly in this country, or either a salesman of wine, right?
That's right. More specifically, a specific wine which is...
Champagne.
Right, that we throw all the time.
Good night, champagne.
Actually, G.H. Mum and Company. G.H. Mum and Company. Founded in...
Very good, too.
Mum's the word.
Mum's the word.
Maybe we can get a discount.
But also bringing Count de Lafayette to this country is the New Jersey Tercentennial, his great ancestor. You don't know what line of succession, how far back was Major General Lafayette?
It's fifth generation.
Fifth generation.
Yes.
And the Major General Lafayette fought in Monmouth in New Jersey, and of course Yorktown, a lot of the great battles of the Revolutionary War. And it's, as always, I think you know what great affection this nation holds for your family, and it's
a great devotion, yes.
A great devotion,
yes.
Yes, indeed. And
Are you having fun over there?
Yeah, we're having fun of it.
We are glad you are here.
We are glad you are here, and thank you very much for joining us in What's My Life. And now to meet a second challenger. Will you enter and sign in, please? Norman Yeend. Is that right, sir?
That's right.
All right. Mr. Yeend, where are you from?
From Staten Island.
From Staten Island. Fine. Mr. Yeend, may I present our panel? And now, if you'll join me over here, we'll let the audience at home and the audience in the theater know exactly what your line is. All right. Panel, we can tell you that Mr. Yeend is salaried and deals in a service, and we'll begin the general questioning with Arlene Francis.
Do you work for a profit-making organization?
I do, yes.
Is it fun?
Generally, yes.
You enjoy what you do, huh?
I do, yes.
Do people come to you for your service?
Yes.
Yes, we would agree that that's possible, but...
But he can also go to people and give his service?
Yes, we would suggest that is very possible.
In extremis?
No, that's very possible.
Do you do anything with your hands, specifically in your service?
I do,
You touch something?
yes.
Is there anything to do with transportation in your service?
No.
1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Mr. Yeen, in that event, I presume we can eliminate that magnificent new bridge that connects Staten Island with Brooklyn. Is that correct?
Well, it's a little difficult to eliminate it. You know, it's steel
I
and
meant
it's...
from the case of Mr.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course.
Mr. Yeen, does the service that you perform improve conditions at all in the place where you perform them?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes, we would say if a condition existed which gave or did violence to, let us say, to the atmosphere or the area in which it was located after Mr. Yeen's services, we'd agreed that the things had been improved.
Mr. Yeen, might you be called for in some kind of an emergency when something had gone wrong?
With the particular thing, yes.
Yes, there could be an occasion when you would describe as an emergency the particular situation which called Mr. Yeen's talents to account.
Could you possibly have anything to do with plumbing of any kind?
No, that's 2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Do you have anything to do with children or animals?
No.
3 down and 7 to go, Mr. Borger.
Well, I recognize the gentleman, therefore I think it would be time for me to...
All right, Victor. And thank you very much. Actually, we tried to fool you, but we'll agree that you have passed. Miss Francis?
Out.
Out. Passed out.
Is the work that you do you fix something
And how?
Yes.
on, yes is the answer.
Yeah.
Well, of course, if Mr. Borger recognizes you, may I suggest that you might either fix something on a piano or on a bird? One of those?
Yes, the former. The first.
Don't tell
him anything. You didn't hear anything, did you?
No, he just said yes.
Oh, good. Fine, go on.
Well, I'm going to choose that he might possibly be a piano tuner, and he probably... Oh, is he?
Well, it was a good try, Mr. Yin. It was a good try. Actually, it was a pretty good try because I tell you, a piano that he has tuned, in the last 18 months, maybe twice, would you say? Mm-hmm.
Is Mr. Borger's piano?
Oh, no, he's done Victor's many times. How often do you do?
That's about 8 times a week.
8 times a week, but he's done Dorothy Kilgallen's twice in the last 18 months.
But
Did
I
you
haven't
know?
run into you, I guess.
No, you haven't, Dorothy, because you weren't at home.
Piano enough, that's the trouble.
I should be down sitting there watching to make sure he does a good job, but he always does.
Mr. Yin, will you be kind enough to tell the audience that when I play out of tune, it is not always my fault?
Mr. Yeend is with Steinway and Sons, and I must say that Arlene asked if you had fun in what you did, and I would think, considering the fact that you have the fun of seeing Victor so many times and get into Dorothy's and meet folks like him, that you have a lot of fun.
I do.
I hope it continues that way, and thanks very much for visiting us and watching. We'll meet tonight's mystery guest in just a moment. Now the special feature to our program, for which the panel is always blindfolded, as you know. Blindfolds in place, panel.
Yes, sir.
1, 2, no, you got it right side up, Victor. You got to put it on the other way. It's the eyes you cover. You're gagged now. That doesn't do us any good. We don't want you gagged.
I could stand on my head or two.
You stay with that.
Disappear under the table.
Pull it down. All right, all blindfolds are in place. Will you enter, Mystery Challenger, and sign in, please? All right. As you know, panel, different form of questioning, one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise. And we will begin with Bennett Cerf.
Well, that kind of tumult and screaming usually betokens glamour with a capital G. Would you say you were a glamorous person?
Well, I will answer that one with a thunderous yes.
I didn't want to hear your answer. I wanted to hear...
Well, this would require perhaps a degree of immodesty which our guest would not like to display. So you'll have to take my yes, and we'll try Miss Kilgallen.
Are you primarily a movie star?
I ain't quite sure.
And I will say yes to that, Mr. Bogart.
Does that mean you're not sure you are, or were you?
No,
Well, I plan to be.
And the plan's worked out.
You're trying to be what?
A movie star.
You are trying to be a movie star.
I sure am trying.
You only get one question, Victor. You managed to squeeze
Well,
two
I
and a
haven't
half.
had it yet.
Well, you've got 2 and a half.
We're having a whole interview here.
I can't see my questions. I'm blindfolded. I have them all written down here.
All right, Miss Francis.
Are you, at the present time, in a motion picture appearing on Broadway, or are you about to open in one?
No, ma'am, I'm not appearing, and I won't appear until about July.
That's 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Cerf.
Beside your work in motion pictures, are you also famous as a financial directress?
Yes. Miss Kilgallen? Hmm?
What
was that? That was just my chair. I pushed it back suddenly.
That was a yes.
That was a yes.
Well, did Bennett finish his sentence? Financial directress?
Well, yes.
Well, my next question will get a loud no. Are there 2 of you there?
No! That's 2 down and 8 to go, Mr.
I
Bogart.
can't tell when you're answering and when the guest is, John.
Well, I meant to say no, but Mr. Daly just spoke up in front of me. He stood up.
He always does.
I'm trying to guess who Daly is.
You're it, Victor.
I'm what?
You're it.
I'm it.
Yep.
I have a hunch. However, you say you are a directress, yes? Okay, well, that was asked...
No, I didn't say I was a director.
Well, somebody did.
Mr. Bennett Cerf said, he asked me, but I didn't say I was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that a question?
That was a question. No, that wasn't a question. You still have a question, Victor.
Yes.
Yeah, I said yes to the financial directors.
Who's what here?
That's all right. It's Tuesday.
Are you in business outside the movie industry in which you are a director, and in what? Well, I can't ask that.
Y'all are asking too many questions, and in the South, we only answer one. I'll answer the first one. Yes, sir, Mr. Bogart.
You are, in other words, you are a directress in something outside the movie industry.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That brings me no further.
Miss Francis.
I think Mr. Cerf has it, and he was certainly right about glamour, and I believe he's right about twice as much for a nickel, too. And I think it is one of the really true motion picture stars, Joan Crawford.
That's absolutely right. Very nicely done.
Now you know why I couldn't be at Lord Jim's party tonight.
Aye.
I was afraid that the last face you saw, you would consider being on What's My Line.
We noticed your absence.
That's how we knew it, you see.
I'm just sorry that I lost 10 minutes of looking at you.
I must say, Miss Joan has many facets. Besides the moving pictures and business, she serves with me in the USO. This is all by way of telling a story which I think Miss Joan will be amused by, too. But it's really for Bennett and for you all. And we had... Miss Joan serves on the USO board in New York with me, and we had our annual dinner this week for the Gold Medal Award to Roger Blau of United States Steel, and Bob Hope was there as a part of the program as a previous winner of the gold medal. And I was Toastmaster, and I thought I was doing fairly well. And you remember this, John. Bob got up when his turn came, and he said, it was nice to see John here. And he hasn't done so badly considering he hasn't got his interpreter with him, Bennett Cerf. And that finished me for the rest of the night. But we had a wonderful dinner.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for
Thank
being
you
our
so
guest
much.
on What's My Line. A little early, but Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I've got to tell you one more story from that dinner. Bob Hope is such a funny man. This medal was given to Roger Blau, who was head of United States Steel, as you know. So Bob Hope turned to Roger Blau and he said, I'm certainly proud to be a part of this ceremony and to be here. He was to present General Eisenhower, who was to present the medal to Roger Blau. And he said, we do want you to know that we're sorry about this. We're giving you a gold medal. We'd like to have given you one made of steel, but gold is cheaper. And, panel, I must say, I think you've done rather well tonight, and you ought to get some congratulations, and we'll all be back after this word. Well, we had a good night, Victor. It's wonderful having you with us. You're completely unpredictable, but it's a great joy always to be so unpredictable with you. And on that happy note, good night, Miss Dorothy Kilgallen.
Good night, John, and good night, Victor.
Good night, Good night.
Aren't you glad you came, Victor?
I'll stay.
You're supposed to say good night to me.
Good night to me.
That's right.
Good night, dear boy. Good night, Bennett.
Good night. It's always nice to have Victor Borger on the panel. We have these visiting panelists. Some of them are nice, some of them are brilliant, some of them are both, and Victor's both.
That's true.
Good night, John.
Good night, Bennett. And again, good night to you all, panel, and a particular good night to all of you at home, and thanks for being with us on What's My Line.
What's My Line is a CBS television network production in association with Mark Goodson and Bill Todman. This is Johnny Olson, reminding you if you'd like to attend one of our broadcasts, write to What's My Line, CBS Tickets, 485 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, 10022.
Well, that's our show for you for today. We'll be back next time for another Game Show Fever Chat. Until then, you have a good night.